throws to prep. All your favorite action. All
that is 55 starting quarterbacks in the NFL this season. Still not close to last year when there were over 60 quarterbacks that started an NFL game. But what does it mean? You always have to be ready. From injury, Justin Herbert, what is his future, to just poor performance, next man up. Let's go. It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal. JJ Buck, the DC, and the voice of the Albuquerque Isotopes, the Golden Pipes of Mr. Josh Shushan in studio this morning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, JJ. It is a pleasure to be here, and I don't know if I'm Joe Flacco or who I am, but I am happy to be a backup quarterback inside here and talking with you on this very cold, breezy morning.
It is always a pleasure to get you in studio because I know you're a busy man. When you're on the microphone as much as you are, sometimes we're like, you know what? I don't know if I want to do this again, but we caught you at a good time in the offseason. You had, enough time away from the microphone that we get you for a full 3 hours this morning. We're going to have a lot of fun hitting so many topics because it's what we do on the opening drive. It's why you tune in to the OD in the mornings. And yes, another quarterback is starting. Does that make it actually 56 if we talk about Easton Stick? I don't know if I factored him in. We're up to 56. So 55 and 56 could be Nick Mullins and the Eastern Stick for the Chargers on Thursday Night Football against the Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, you can hear that right here on your home for Monday night, Thursday night, and Sunday Night Football, the Sports Animal. But Justin Herbert officially done for the season after surgery on that broken right index finger. And the Chargers are a team you look at, and the last couple of seasons they've been paper champions. And you feel that they have all the talent, but they can't quite put it together. What does the future hold for Justin Herbert? I'm still all in. I still think he is one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. You look at the numbers this season, they're fine. It's just the winning hasn't been there. And it started last year in the playoffs when he lose that 27-0 lead at halftime to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kind of sets the tone for, I don't know if this group is going to work. They ran it back with Brandon Staley. Now, Justin Herbert goes down, but I think even before that, your team is below 500, 5-8 now. Feels like the writing could be on the wall for Brandon Staley and the Chargers, but future holds for one of the best young quarterbacks in the game.
Well, he look, when you've had an NFL with 55 different quarterbacks going on 56 now, do you realize how many of those teams in the NFL would love to have Justin Herbert? Like, he is not the problem, right? The problem is that they have just had a culture where they have just constantly lost close games. I don't know if any other franchise in any other sport has the reputation of, we find a way to lose close games constantly, year after year after year. Different head coaches, different quarterbacks, they just have a massive culture problem when it comes to finding ways to win games. He's not the problem. The coach has to go. You can't lose this many games, especially this many close games, and hang on. So he's going to be fine. He's got a lot of money. He's really good. A lot of teams would love to have him. So stinks for him. They probably weren't going to the playoffs anyways, and so now they can just basically get a better draft pick the rest of the year.
And this is my feel with Justin Herbert. And I know a lot of people, because of the hype, have soured on Herbert. And so we need to start looking at Justin Herbert. You need to start picking him apart. He needs to start having some of the blame. And that's understandable because that's what comes with being a quarterback at the NFL level. But I get the sense, I get the feeling Justin Herbert, to me, is all like Matthew Stafford. Like, it gets to a certain point, you're not winning at the high enough level which matches your talent. And so people begin to question just how good you are. And in the NFL, we know it's so much more than just a quarterback. Even though we love the quarterback, get hyped on the quarterback. And so I feel like, is this even a cultural thing? Like what you just laid out with the Chargers? Because you get Matthew Stafford, the first time he steps foot outside of Detroit, what does he do? He wins a Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Rams. And I kind of get that feeling with Herbert. Is it an organizational thing? Because it's definitely not a talent thing with Justin Herbert. And I'm interested to see your response to this because you're a Bay Area guy. You've watched the Golden State Warriors. And there's two teams I kind of feel that way about. the Chargers, but the Buffalo Bills, where to me, it's kind of like Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr. And especially with Buffalo right now. Like, they're winning. They've had some playoff success, but maybe they just can't get over the hump. And it kind of feels like, all right, you replace that piece, and could that be the spark that takes these teams that have a top 5, top 7 quarterbacks in the NFL finally across the hump?
I think it's a great comp with Matthew Stafford, first of all. The second name that came to mind in terms of like a comp of someone who's got a lot of talent and wins but doesn't win enough is Derek Carr, right? And so now a lot of the Raiders fans who got sick and tired of Derek Carr will watch him with the Saints and say, see, told you so. Should have got rid of him 5 years ago, right? So I think all three of those are fairly similar in that big arms, can make every throw, have all the talent in the world, haven't quite been able to figure it out. Is it the defense? Is it because there's a different offensive coordinator every year? Is it because there's not enough blocking? Is it because there's not enough running back options in order to like balance out run and pass? So all of those things. With the Bill, look, you get to a certain point. First, you fire the coach, then you get rid of the quarterback, right? If the quarterback has enough talent, then you get rid of the coach first. You give him, or maybe you get rid of the offensive coordinator first. Some combination of offensive coordinator and head coach go, and then once it's still not working, then it's like, okay, now we need to get rid of the quarterback. That's usually the progression of these things. Probably going to be the same thing with the Chargers.
Yeah, and that's one with the official Justin Herbert being out. You get Aiden O'Connell versus Easton Stick on Thursday Night Football, and that's where they are with the Chargers and the Raiders. And
unless we go back to Brian Hoyer.
Well, Jimmy Garoppolo's there.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know it's a tough season when you lose the game 3-0, by the way. Minnesota beat the Raiders 3-0 last Sunday. And Minnesota makes the quarterback change to get into field goal position. That's what Nick Mullins did.
Right.
He got the Vikings into field goal position. And then the questions from the Las Vegas media are like, why didn't you go to Jimmy Garoppolo? Mm-hmm. Like, this is the world of quarterback play we're living in right now. We're talking about not just the Chargers and Raiders, but the Cleveland Browns playing Joe Flacco, the 8-5 Cleveland Browns playing Joe Flacco. You run down the list of the starters that are out. It's big time game, Herbert, Burrow. It's just unbelievable kind of what we're seeing. And this is 2 years in the NFL, but it feels like this year it's so much different because you look at the teams that are 6-7 in the NFC. You have 5 teams. You got like 6 teams that are 7-6 in the AFC. It's just super highlighting just competent quarterback play at this point.
I feel like this is the worst that quarterback play has been in the NFL in almost like 2 decades now, because you think about like the Drew Breeses that are gone, the Tom Brady's that are gone, the Peyton Mannings that are gone, like these elite quarterbacks that took up basically a third of the NFL. And then he had another third of like really good quarterbacks. And then he had about a third of the teams that were trying to figure out their quarterback situation. I feel like this year, more than half the teams, not just trying to figure it out, but in desperate need of a quarterback. It's probably why the NFL has been so difficult to watch for large stretches of this season, because the quarterback plays have been so bad and just so many injuries to quarterbacks, which once again, we do all of this to protect the quarterbacks, which is good. I believe that we should be protecting quarterbacks because this is the result of when you don't protect quarterbacks. Then you have a whole lot of terrible quarterbacks in the league, and it's a tough product to watch at times. And this is the byproduct of all of that. And yeah, it becomes very difficult to watch when you have this many bad quarterbacks in the league.
Oh, you got to find yourself a Tommy DeVito. You got to find yourself a guy that can win you 3 in a row. Excite your fan base.
But this is also where, because of that, it does give every fan base sort of like this hope, right? Like maybe we can find this guy, right? You know, when I go back in the day with the Raiders, like, oh, we're going to go back to Jim Plunkett and he leads the team to the Super Bowl. You know, you go back to different other cases, even what got Tom Brady, got him started, right? You go back and look at these different cases, but also you realize that either A, if we get the right quarterback in the draft next year, we got a chance, or even B, every team is susceptible if their quarterback goes down, right? The Chiefs, like every team becomes susceptible where there's a lot of teams, even if you're middling around 500, where it's not out of the question that you could somehow get into the playoffs and then you never know what happens.
Who is your favorite backup quarterback this season? I
know who's my least favorite.
Who's your least favorite?
Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell. What do you think? That one, too, with Antonio Pierce, I don't know what point he's trying to prove. Does Jimmy Garoppolo have some type of like injury guarantee they're trying to avoid having to pay him? But that seems like one of those situations where, all right, let's maybe go back to the veterans, see if we can get one last spark one last push, but they are riding that Aiden O'Connell train.
My only thought is that because this is a Thursday game, okay, we're just going to stick with the guy who we've had for the last few weeks, but I feel like this has to be his last shot to show something, right? I mean, he's basically shown who he is, and to go back to Garoppolo in a short week, I think would be – there's just so much that happens so quickly on a Thursday game that you almost don't have time to make these big picture decisions. It's like, okay, it's almost like, okay, we just got to run it back. But after Thursday's game is when the Raiders have to really seriously think about what are we going to do next year? Because no matter what, you have to get a new quarterback in the offseason. So then it's a question of, are we at least going to get our money's worth out of Garoppolo, or somewhat of our money's worth out of Garoppolo, or what? I would be very disappointed if O'Connell is starting 11 days from now.
And one of the questions we're going to ask this morning, too.
But my favorite's Flacco.
Yeah, this is so wild. Like, that was the last guy you're thinking about this season of, Joe Flacco's going to make an impact. And I think when the Cleveland Browns signed Joe Flacco, it was a lot of LOL. Mm-hmm. Oh, what a disaster. Making fun of Deshaun Watson as well and that bad contract, and the Cleveland Browns can't get out of their way. They're 8-5, and they're a step ahead of the other wildcard teams in the AFC. But do you want to be competing as a fan base, or do we one of those people that say, well, we might not have championship aspirations, so we need to tank and let's just lose? How do you live your life as a fan? I know how you're going to live on Saturday. How about this Isleta New Mexico Bowl? New Mexico State and Fresno State, we got some tickets to give away. Say bottom of the hour-ish, 7 o'clock hour, we're going to hook you up with a pair of tickets to the Isleta New Mexico Bowl. New Mexico State and Fresno State this Saturday. It's going to be popping. Aggie fans are going to be excited. Hey, Lobo fans, you might go out there to root against them, maybe root for them. We shall see. Still a lot of ruffled feathers from what happened this year between New Mexico and New Mexico State. Diego Pavia, a local hero to some, villain to others. Head coach Jared Kill of Mexico State said Diego Pavia is going to be playing in this game. And by the way, he was just the Conference USA Offensive Player of the Year, the quarterback for New Mexico State. So we'll give those away bottom of the hour. Stay tuned in the 7 o'clock hour because we got you covered on Saturday. So we are the radio home, bowl season radio for the Isleta New Mexico Bowl. We'll have that sandwiched between 2 of the 3 NFL games. What a weekend it's going to be. But when we come back on the other side, Shohei has changed the game with his play. Did he just change it with his contract? That is next. Josh Ushan, DC, at JJ Buck here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Albuquerque's leader in sports is ProView. From pros to prep, all your favorite action. All your favorite talk shows. Find it on ProView Networks.
We aren't all born with the same opportunities. But it's the people who care that change everything.
Get ready, Scout, get ready!
My coach, my teacher, my older sisters, my grandma, my brother, my tutor, my dad, my mom.
As Mexicans, it's up to all of us to do our part.
So that no child goes without love.
And no family has to do it all on their own.
They're all our children. Every single person is called to make a difference in the life of a child.
It's up to all of us to do our part.
To pull together.
Pull together.
Pull together.
To make New Mexico the best place to be a kid.
Young driver, this one. Hard to get her out. She'd been drinking. This one. Both of them gone. They'd been drinking, and he drove clear off the road. This was my family. Drunk driver hit us. And my wife. And our daughter.
Hi, I'm Steve Sunker here for Dr. Robert Melendez and the Juliet Eye Institute. You may remember me like this, but no more. The glasses are gone. I tossed them months ago because of a brand new procedure from Dr. Melendez known as RLE, Refractive Lens Exchange. The latest technology, the best eyesight I've ever had in my life, and you can check it out by clicking on the link in the description right here.
If you're drunk, blasted, intoxicated, ripped, plastered, destroyed, bruh. If you're like this, you shouldn't be driving.
What's going on, Lobo Nation? Ja'Cory Krosky-Miller here.
And I'm Devin Dampier. The Lobo football team is going through some changes, but we're here to stay.
We'll put in the work on the field and in the weight room, but we'll need your help off the field.
505 Sports Venture is leading the charge in the NIL space.
And you can be part of it.
You make my heart better. Shorty, she better than all my intentions. I can show that you got my attention. CEO, baby, I get you the business. Touchdown and pay you a visit.
For 50 years, Clark's Pet Emporium has been your pet's favorite stop. Santa Paws has left thousands of holiday gifts for your furry, scaly, and winged family members. Pick up a gift for a pet lover or even a new pet. Clark's has shelves full of pet beds, sweaters, toys and treats, habitats, and tanks galore. Locally owned and operated with 2 convenient locations for all your pet needs. 11200 Manal Northeast or 4914 Lomas Northeast. Clark's is celebrating 50 years. Thanks to you, the Christmas Superstore. ClarksPets.com.
It's Dwight Goodman!
This place is hot. Let's see if anyone needs my help. How would I drive you that man home, huh?
I got this, Dwight. I'm the designated driver. Boom.
Sweet.
Does anyone need Dwight's help getting home tonight?
No thanks, Romeo. I've got a taxi all lined up.
Drive safe, Dwight.
These days, it's important to know people and businesses you can trust. There's a lot of places where you can buy a vehicle, but there's only a few local dealerships where you'll find honest people who have your best interests in mind. And Fiesta Kia is one of them. We've been helping our neighbors save money and drive dependable cars for years, and we'd love to help you. With new Kias arriving daily, you'll love our selection and the peace of mind you'll get driving a Kia from Fiesta. So stop by and see us today at Fiesta Kia on Lomas, or just start driving now at fiestakia.com.
From the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Orange County of the Milky Way Galaxy to the Los Angeles Dodgers to join that crew, because it's what you do. He got paid $700 million. It's wild that I did not blink an eye at that. And when it comes to baseball contracts and superstars, I wasn't like, OMG, what is happening? I was like, of course. That Shohei Ohtani got the bag. Shohei Ohtani is the best baseball player I have ever seen. There's good players. There's Mike Trouts. There's whoever you grew up with, King Griffey Jr., you name it. But Shohei Ohtani is the most exciting player I have ever seen play the game of baseball, because growing up, it was just a myth. Like, oh, this guy Babe Ruth played baseball once, and he pitched, and he was really good, and he hit home runs. You're like, all right, that's cool. Oh, and he ate a lot of hot dogs. But now you watch Shohei Ohtani, and you're like, wow, this dude is ace stuff. It's not just like a guy that goes in there, and he's throwing like 88, getting by, giving you some innings. No, this is a dude that you can look up and go, man, he just threw 7 shutout innings, and he's 2 for 3 at the plate with a stolen base. Like, it's unbelievable. Well, give the guy the bag. But the bag that he got is also a game changer, because now the Los Angeles Dodgers can address some more of their needs in free agency. And if you look at the free agency class, which we're going to do this morning, it's kind of pitcher heavy this year, and a lot of those contending teams always looking for pitching. JJ Buck DC, the voice of the Albuquerque Isotopes. It's an all-around gentleman. Josh Sushan with us this morning. And $700 million, no surprise. But then you start hearing about it. Like, what does this all mean? Because $680 million of it is deferred for 10 years. And we had a lot of questions about it yesterday because I say it all the time. You can't freak out. Like, the sports world is a different world. Like, these dudes are going to get massive contracts. These dudes are going to make a lot of money. And you cannot compare it to the 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 you work every single day. You just can't. But this is one of those where the deferred money 10 years from now, where they're going to then start paying him the $680 million. It was wild. What does it all mean? And you actually did some research on this with some answers for us.
Yeah. I heard you and Ned talking about this, and I was curious, and I can't stop reading about Ohtani because it's fascinating to me. So he's guaranteed of getting the money. The idea of like, oh, what if the Dodgers go bankrupt? First of all, they would not go bankrupt, and Major League Baseball's central office guarantees the contracts on top of the teams. But the Dodgers have to put that money into an escrow account. They can wait 2 years, but they have to put $68 million into this escrow account each year so that he can get paid. The interesting part is that there's no interest. So July 1st used to be Bobby Bonilla Day, but going forward, it's going to be Shohei Ohtani Day because he's going to get $68 million on July 1st. So I've heard a whole lot of different people's takes about this. Some saying that it's a joke that Major League Baseball allows this. I've heard some agents saying that they can't believe that they would do this because they would never do that for their own client and have them wait to get this. And then other people who say that this is brilliant because this is a way of avoiding taxes in California. He can get taxed on it in Japan once he leaves the United States and goes back there. So there's a wide range of things that are about this. But here's the thing. There has been deferments for a while, and there's going to continue to be deferments. The only reason why this is so over the top is because so few guys make $50 million in endorsements, which is what Shohei reportedly gets. So if he's getting $50 million basically in yen, whatever the equivalent of that is in yen, then he doesn't have to worry. It's almost like a George Clooney who's like, I make so much money that I'm just going to work for scale. I always think that when you compare the money that athletes get, you have to compare it to actors, right? Like the Friends cast, they got $1 million per episode. Per episode back in the mid-'90s. Like what the equivalent of that is probably in the neighborhood of what Shohei Ohtani's getting, or somewhere around there. So again, it basically comes down to that. And so now the Dodgers have a whole lot more money that they can surround him with. Clearly he likes money, and clearly he wants to give his team a chance to surround himself with players that he can be in the postseason.
Yeah, and this is, I think, a game changer for the Dodgers. And I'm with you. I look at it and say, I don't think that there's many other guys that can do that just have that big of an endorsement base in baseball.
Even Mike Trout can't do that.
No, to be like, oh, this Subway money is good enough for me. I can defer this money. Like, there's not many guys like that. And that's what makes Shohei Ohtani so special, too, because you got the entire country of Japan that's following him. And then so you have that revenue, those jersey sales, all that stuff that's coming in extra, too, for the Dodgers. And also, it shows a guy that is hungry for success. He's been right there. He's looking around going, man, it's Mike Trout and I. We could be the best duo in baseball. But we still did not get anywhere with the Angels. And so that's the next step, too, for the Dodgers. Because at the end, pitching wasn't healthy. They didn't have enough starters. Now you expect Walker Buehler to come back, probably have some young arms potentially in the system. But now with this deferment, they can look down at that list and go, oh, well, that's really interesting. Who do we got out there? Blake Snell, you interested in playing for a different NL West team? What about Jordan Montgomery? Just saw what you did with the Texas Rangers. Dylan Cease, Tyler Glasnow. Like, now they can start going down this route to really solidify themselves.
I think that, look, this is just really good for baseball. When you have the biggest star that comes to Hollywood, a team that consistently makes the playoffs but has only won a World Series on the COVID year, it has people talking. It has casual fans talking. I think all of that is good. All of those names that you just mentioned, those guys are thinking, oh, cool, I want to play with Shohei Ohtani. And the Dodgers have more money that they can give me. The Dodgers have a need. But also, as amazing as it is to watch Shohei, number one, he's not going to pitch next year. Number two, there's no guarantee that he's ever going to get back to the level. It's one thing to come back from one Tommy John surgery, We don't know for sure if he had Tommy John surgery or what because of the secretive nature. But still, the idea that every time you come back from an elbow surgery, it becomes harder and harder for you to either A, come back and reach that level. Now, he can still be an elite right fielder because of his talent, but we don't know for sure if he's going to have to become a first baseman or if he's going to become a full-time DH. And so $700 million or $460 present day value is still an enormous amount of money. But now this doesn't completely solve all the Dodgers' problems. But that's why I think it's great for baseball, because it makes them the biggest villains.
Yeah, because they're like, here we go again.
Yes.
And you bring up a really good point with the Dodgers, is because you do have that. And I'm a Colorado Rockies fan. And it's just more, I'm like, all right, we're already 20 games back and the season hasn't even started. Like, that's just a feeling I have looking at the Dodgers and everything with that division. But you bring up the point, too. It's like, well, they're not out there winning the World Series every year. So you have that balance. You kind of have that, all right, they can be the heel for everyone else. But baseball is still like, hey, look at who we have in the World Series. Look at who's winning these games.
So this is interesting because I think because baseball doesn't have a salary cap and because the Dodgers just got Ohtani and the Yankees just got Juan Soto, there's this feeling of it's not fair in baseball. As a Rockies fan, it can feel hopeless. Like, it's not fair that the biggest teams can spend any amount of money and they can buy the World Series. You know what's interesting, JJ, is this century, Major League Baseball has had more different teams win their championship than the NFL or the NBA or the NHL. There has been 16 different World Series champions over the last 23 years. 16 in the last 23 years. By comparison, the NFL's had 13. The NBA and the NHL, they've only had 11. Those three leagues all have salary caps, but yet there's been a higher number of Major League Baseball teams that have won the World Series with the league that does not have a salary cap than the three leagues that do have salary caps.
That is phenomenal. And I want to dive into that coming on the other side of why that is. Is it just as simple as the free agency headlines sway us? Because those are straight facts, is that more teams have won the World Series than any other sports, but we feel like baseball is so pushed towards the superstar teams on the coast. And then, the Midwest, been there, done that, Cardinals, Cubs fans. But it is more wide open than you anticipated. And how do you feel? Dodgers fan, Shohei Ohtani is in town. If they're giving him $700 million, too, I assume that they expect him to pitch, though, too.
Oh, yeah.
Be back on the mound within 2 years. So there's a whole lot to break down. Josh Shushan in studio with us. 505-246-0610. That is the Sports Animal hotline. Also, the Sports Animal text line for you to get involved this morning. DC holding it down. JJ Buck with you here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
This report is brought to you by...
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible. International Protective Services is a proud supporter of ProView Sports and New Mexico Youth Athletics. IPS provides residential and commercial security services in the Albuquerque metro area. For more info, please call 505-897-2420 or visit internationalprotectiveservice.com.
Hi, I'm Steve Sunker here for Dr. Robert Melendez and the Juliet Eye Institute. You may remember me like this, but no more. The glasses are gone. I tossed them months ago because of a brand new procedure from Dr. Melendez known as RLE, Refractive Lens Exchange. The latest technology, the best eyesight I've ever had in my life, and you can check it out by clicking on the link in the description right here.
Hi, my name is Daniel Chavez, and this is my business partner, David Chavez. We are the owners of ND Safety. ND Safety is a local safety consulting company helping our clients with their safety needs for their projects.
One of the things we pride ourselves as a construction safety company is helping our men and women in construction get home safe every day to their families. ND Safety is a proud supporter of ProView Network.
We aren't all born with the same opportunities. But it's the people who care that change everything.
You ready, Sal? You ready?
My coach, my teacher, my older sisters, my grandma, my brother, my tutor, my dad, my mom, and me.
As Mexicans, it's up to all of us to do our part.
So that no child goes without love.
And no family has to do it all on their own.
They're all our children. Every single person is called to make a difference in the life of a child.
It's up to all of us to do our part.
To pull together.
Pull together.
Pull together.
To make New Mexico the best place to be a kid.
We thank you.
Rosendo Mahadir, President of Carpenters Local 1319. Juan Junior Gonzalez, Warden of Local 1319. Some people have a misconception about what a carpenter does. The carpentry trade entails more than just woodworking or building houses. We are responsible for 85% of a construction job site. Everything from the superintendent on down. We have a great apprenticeship program. The information can be found on our website.
If you're drunk, blasted, intoxicated, ripped, plastered, destroyed, bruh. If you're like this, you shouldn't be driving.
Young driver, this one. Hard to get her out. She'd been drinking. This one. Both of them gone. They'd been drinking, and he drove clear off the road. This was my family. Drunk driver hit us. And my wife and our daughter, they didn't make it.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, red and green chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Sweet Rolls. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs are proud supporters of Pro U Sports.
What's going on, Local Nation? Ja'Cory Cross-Camara here.
And I'm Devin Dampier. The Lobo football team is going through some changes, but we're here to stay.
We'll put in the work on the field and in the weight room, but we'll need your help off the field.
505 Sports Venture is leading the charge in the NIL space.
And you can be part of it.
Shorty, she better than all my intentions. I can show that you got my attention. See your baby, I keep to the business. Touchdown and tell you a visit.
For 50 years, Clark's Pet Emporium has been your pet's favorite stop.
A wild inflatable arm man, Draymond Green, in the news again. Let me get to that. I do not know how Steph Curry and Klay Thompson put up with that dude anymore. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. It is the opening drive. J.J. Buck DC, Josh Shushan with us this morning here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. Why in baseball do we feel as fans, just raise your hand if you're one of those fans, my hand's in the air, it's not fair. But the championship numbers say, you know what, it's actually more fair than the other major sports right now. And Josh Shushan just laid it out. I'll let him lay it out one more time because we're talking about the Shohei Ohtani deal going to the Dodgers. The New York Yankees landing Juan Soto in a trade. Now, they had to give up assets to get him, but someone else is going to have to pay Juan Soto a bleep ton of money here. And when he hits free agency, you just get the feeling the rich get richer, but hasn't been the case when it comes to the World Series.
Yeah, so let's reset this. Since 2001, starting with when the Arizona Diamondbacks won the World Series. So this is the start of the century. Major League Baseball has had 16 different World Series champions in the last 23 years. 16. No team has won back-to-back titles, and there's only been 4 teams that have won multiple titles during that stretch. Red Sox, Giants, Cardinals, and Astros. In that same time, the NFL has had 13 different Super Bowl champions, so 3 fewer than Major League Baseball. The NBA and the NHL have had 11 different champions, which is 5 fewer. So the 3 leagues that have a hard salary cap or hard-ish salary cap have had more dynasties and mini dynasties, whereas the one league that doesn't have a salary cap, it does have a competitive balance tax. Major League Baseball has had 16 different champions in the last 23 years.
And this is coming off a World Series that no one had pegged.
Correct.
This past season, the Rangers over the Diamondbacks. And I do think that's fascinating because it shows, baseball, there are 2 ways to do it. You can buy enough talent to compete, And then we also watch, the Astros kind of do the Philadelphia 76ers thing with their organization for a few years. They had a bunch of high picks. They came through. They won. Do you think, as a baseball fan, you should have more hope than you do? Because I'm talking, the Diamondbacks came out of nowhere this season. And we can keep it, NL West related, because we just watched the Padres spend a lot of money and they didn't go anywhere. And you brought it up too, is last year, you remember New York Yankees, New York Mets, San Diego Padres, top 3 payrolls in baseball, did not make the playoffs. So you as a fan, you want your organization to be spending money, but you got to have that balance. Because we also watched the emergence of the Baltimore Orioles last year. A lot of their young talent come into the forefront. So I think as a baseball fan, you just want competent ownership. Like, they're willing to spend money if needed, and hopefully you have a good enough scouting development department that when they're coming up through those minor leagues, you can find some consistent players.
I think that this is the conundrum that baseball have. What makes baseball great for those who love baseball is what makes it hard for the casual fan to embrace it. Okay, what makes baseball great is that it's every day. Okay, well, that's hard for the casual fan to embrace. What makes baseball great is that there's a lot of strategy, that there's a game within the game, that there's a lot of history. And once you know the history and once you know the strategy, then you really get into it more. But that makes it harder for the casual fan. What also makes baseball great is that it's hard for stars to dominate, right? Tom Brady can drop back and throw the ball 50 straight times. But Shohei Ohtani, after he hits, he has to wait for 8 of his teammates to hit before he gets another chance. And even when Shohei Ohtani is pitching, he still has to wait 3 to 5 days before his arm is good enough before he can pitch again. So one player cannot dominate, even 2 to 3 stars. Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani cannot make the playoffs, even though they were the 2 best players in baseball. That's what makes baseball great, but what draws in casual fans is stars. And when stars can't dominate, that makes it harder. And so that's why the Golden State Warriors, you put Steph Curry out there and then you surround him with just enough players, can win title after title. You have Tom Brady for 2 decades, and the Patriots can win title after title and constantly get to the at least the championship game. And so that's why those sports, 1 to 2 players, as long as you keep them on your team, you can win for long, long stretches of time. You can't do that in baseball.
Yeah, and it is fascinating with the game of baseball of how open it can be, but there's also this feeling of, like, what I'm feeling right now as a Rockies fan of, like, well, how are you supposed to compete? You're not paying someone $700 million. You're not able to land Juan Soto, but there's always an opportunity. So Josh Dushan is saying there is a chance.
I mean, even last year, now, it took a while. Look, the Orioles, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, I mean, they've been bad for a while. The Marlins, have had their moments here and there, but last year, out of the 12 teams that made Major League Baseball's playoffs, 5 of those 12 were in the bottom third in payroll, right? The Orioles had the second lowest payroll, and they had the second most wins. The Rays have been really good for a while, even though they have to keep reinventing themselves. So the Reds, the Diamondbacks, the Marlins, they proved last year that it can be done. But they also proved that, number one, you have to be patient, but number two, you have to be really good. You can't miss. And the thing for me is it's not to me whether or not you can compete 1 year or 2 years. It's whether or not you can sustain it. I hate the phrase window, but it really is true. That if you're a team that doesn't have a big payroll, you have these windows and everything has to come together, because once that window closes, now you have to pay all of them. And you're not going to pay all of them, so then you have to start all over again, which is what the A's have done. It's what the Rays have to do. And that just becomes really frustrating as a fan when it's not every single year. It's just these windows of years.
And one thing, too, with baseball right now that Shohei Ohtani has signed, it really opens the floodgates. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see the hot stove league tick up now because Shohei Ohtani's off the market. These teams can start signing. And the other name you're going to hear a lot is Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He's a free agent pitcher from Japan. He's 25 years old. Heard him compared to Tim Lincecum with his size and the way that he throws the baseball. He's going to be the next hot signing. Do you think Shohei landing in L.A. puts the Dodgers potentially in front? Not sweepstakes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it puts the Dodgers for every free agent, because every free agent's going to want to play with him, and every free agent realizes they have more money to spend because of the deferment. So whether it's Yamamoto, whether it's Blake Snell, whether it's, Josh Hader, I don't think they need another closer, but you can never have enough bullpen guys, I think that all of them, their first choice is going to be the Dodgers right now because they know that they have a chance to win there and they know the Dodgers have money. Like, what else do you want as a free agent? You want money and a chance to win.
Perfect. You get that with the Los Angeles Dodgers. 505-246-0610.
And one last thought for Yamamoto. If you're coming over to the United States, don't you want to be around other guys from your country? Like, who can show you around, who can kind of take the pressure off you, who can just let you know, like, okay, this is how we do things, this translator you can trust, all that kind of stuff. I think that he would probably want to be with the Dodgers, all things considered.
So it could be another fantastic offseason for the LA Dodgers, but then you still got to put in the work. You got a long season of baseball ahead. You don't have to wait long. This Saturday, the Isleta New Mexico Bowl. If you haven't gotten your tickets, well, we got a couple chances just right here to win a pair of tickets today, tomorrow, and Friday. 505-246-0610, caller number 3. Ooh, so get dialing right now. 505-246-0610. Get yourself a pair of tickets to the Isleta New Mexico Bowl this Saturday. New Mexico State, Fresno State. The Bulldogs landed in town last night. Mexico State making the way up as it's time for bowl season. It kicks off on Saturday right here at University Stadium. 505-246-0610. Your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Isleta New Mexico Bowl right now here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible. International Protective Services is a proud supporter of ProView Sports and New Mexico Youth Athletics. IPS provides residential and commercial security services in the Albuquerque metro area. For more info, please call 505-897-2420 or visit internationalprotectiveservice.com.
Hi, I'm Steve Sunker here for Dr. Robert Melendez and the Juliet Eye Institute. You may remember me like this, but no more. The glasses are gone. I tossed them months ago because of a brand new procedure from Dr. Melendez known as RLE, Refractive Lens Exchange. The latest technology, the best eyesight I've ever had in my life, and you can check it out by clicking on the link in the description right here.
If you're drunk, classic, intoxicated, plaster, destroyed, bruh. You're like this, you shouldn't be driving.
Albuquerque's leader in sports is ProView. From pros to prep. All your favorite action. All your favorite talk shows. Find it on ProView Networks.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
Hey, look! It's Dwight Goodman! This place is hot. Let's see if anyone needs my help. How about I drive the madman home, huh?
I got this, Dwight. I'm the designated driver. Boom.
Sweet. Does anyone need Dwight's help getting home tonight?
No thanks, Romeo. I've got a taxi all lined up.
Drive safe, Dwight.
What's going on, Lobo Nation? Ja'Cory Cross-Camara here.
And I'm Devin Dampier. The Lobo football team is going through some changes, but we're here to stay.
We'll put in the work on the field and in the weight room, but we'll need your help off the field.
505 Sports Venture is leading the charge in the NIL space.
And you can be part of it.
Shorty, she better than all my attention. I can shorty, you got my attention. See your baby, I get to the business. Touchdown and tell you a visit.
For 50 years, Clark's Pet Emporium has been your pet's favorite stop. Santa Paws has left thousands of holiday gifts for your furry, scaly, and winged family members. Pick up a gift for a pet lover or even a new pet. Clark's has shelves full of pet beds, sweaters, toys and treats, habitats and tanks galore. Locally owned and operated with 2 convenient locations for all your pet needs. 11200 Manal Northeast or 4914 Lomas Northeast. Clark's is celebrating 50 years. Thanks to you, the Christmas Superstore. ClarksPets.com.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, won't scoop, it's not enough. Find a booth that's real tough, backed by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends, in the quirkiest restaurant I've ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, red and green chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier sweet rolls. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride barbecue chicken and ribs are proud supporters of ProView Sports.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Young driver, this one. Hard to get her out. She'd been drinking. This one. Both of them gone. They'd been drinking, and he drove clear off the road. This was my family. Drunk driver hit us. My wife and our daughter, they didn't make it.
It's not a surprise anymore. It's not shocking. Everyone's going to have the take this morning. How could he do this? He should know better. No, we should know better. This is who he is. This is what he's going to do. And it's no longer towing the line. It's just going well over the line. And that is the way Draymond Green plays basketball. It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. JJ Buck, DC, Josh Shushan with us this morning as Bob the Builder continues to work. It was like just outside of our studio with everything that's going on. At Golden State Warriors for Draymond Green ejected once again Tuesday night. 119-116 loss to the Phoenix Suns. The Warriors are struggling this season, and the Suns, they haven't had their big 3 together yet. Kevin Durant was out of the lineup. He suffered another ankle sprain, but Bradley Beal made his debut alongside Devin Booker last night. And Draymond Green, with 8:23 left in the third quarter, became the wild inflatable arm man. And it's just another one of those movements where after the fact, Draymond Green tries to explain it, but you see it and you're like, yes, you intentionally hit Jusuf Nurkic. Like, they got a little bit tangled up, and then he does this wild, spin around haymaker type thing where essentially his elbow and his forearm hit Nurkic in the side of the head. And he's like, what are you talking about? We just got tangled up. And it's like, no, you are a professional athlete. You are in control of your body. Just like when you're kicking dudes in the stones, know what you're doing on rebounds. Just like when you're flying your arms, know exactly what you're doing. But Draymond Green ejected again, potentially facing another suspension from the NBA, and this is what he had to say after the game regarding that ejection.
He was pulling my hip, and I was swinging away to sell the call. Made contact with him. As you know, I'm not one to apologize for things I meant to do, but I do apologize to you, sir, because I didn't intend to hit him. I sell calls with my arms. I don't fall to sell a call. I don't knock a flopper. So I was just selling the call because he was grabbing me and pulling my hip back. So I spun away, and unfortunately I hit him. And so, like I said, I apologize to you, sir, because I didn't intend it.
Have you seen the replay?
He 100% intended to hit him. Like, that is an apology after the fact. I do not believe that I was just trying to sell the call. Yeah, but you knew as a part of the process of selling it, you were going to hit him in the side of the head. And a lot of takes this morning I saw from NBA players, Richard Jefferson, like, man, come on, this is bad for the game. Don't do this. No, this is who he is. Like, none of this should be shocking. None of this should be like, oh my gosh, how can he do it? Because he continues to do it all the time. We've watched him do it in the NBA Finals and hurt his team. We've watched him do it in a regular season. And these are the moments where when Draymond Green is rolling, he has been a key part of what the Golden State Warriors did. His defense, they needed that edge guy because it wasn't Klay Thompson. It wasn't Steph Curry. Someone had to do the dirty work. But don't be surprised because this is what comes with the dirty work is things like this.
The thing about Draymond is that he's so intelligent, though, because even just that, it was an intelligent explanation, even if you don't believe it. I love how he said, I don't apologize for things that I meant to do, but I do apologize for this one. And how he's clairvoyant enough to say, I sell calls with my hands, I don't flop. So there is an intelligence with him. But then he has these out-of-body experiences that sometimes last for 2 seconds, sometimes they last for 5 seconds, sometimes they last for weeks at times, where he constantly does things that sabotages himself and his reputation, his legacy, his team, the credibility of the league, where he continues to do these things. And gosh, how many times have we said, well, if this was the only time that Draymond did it, or if we said, okay, well, if this is the last time that Draymond is in the news for doing something like this, well, he's definitely learned his lesson this time. And then 2 more times it happens. And then 2 more times it happens. It just continually happens. And so it's going to continue to happen until he gets a massive enough of a suspension, or when the Warriors finally decide we've had enough of him. I mean, he punched his own teammate. The Warriors are like, that's fine. We'll get rid of the team.
Yeah,
we'll get rid of
good.
him. He's the problem, right? Which goes to show how much he means to the team when he's not doing crazy things that they continue to put up with him and enable him.
And this is who the Warriors are. As long as Draymond Green is going to be there, he's going to put them in awkward situations. They're going to understand what he means for them defensively. And the Warriors are 23 games into the season. They're not a top 10 team in the Western Conference right now. Like, I don't think people realize that at all. Usually they're just expecting, the Warriors, they're going to be a playoff team. They're going to be fine. They're 10-13 right now. Now, Steph Curry can still get buckets, but you're going to see a little bit of a downtick from Klay Thompson. He's returned from multiple major injuries. They had that burst where they came back, and they were that team. But now they have to be clean. Now they're in a bit of a transition mode where Steve Kerr is putting more and more young guys in a lineup. You have to have it. And those young guys are realizing, man, the Draymond Green experience is absolutely wild. Because if you didn't know, when he punched Jordan Poole in the face last year, and everyone was like, we good. Exactly what you mentioned. Like, we're going to get Jordan Poole out of town. The guy that they just gave the bag to, they're like, no. Jordan, how dare you? This is who he is.
How dare your face get in the way of his fist.
You have to embrace the Draymond Green experience. The Golden State Warriors absolutely have. But you see things like this as a fan, and you're just like, yep, that is who he is. Like, Draymond Green, for as good as he has been for this team defensively, a part of winning NBA championships, like, his legacy, are we going to think about, Draymond Green being the defensive stopper for the Warriors, or, Draymond Green was that dude that knew how to kick you in the stones and hit you in the face?
Well, let's look at it this way. If you're Steph Curry, you want, put it this way, if I'm Steph Curry, I'm glad he's on my team. Yeah. I want the bully on my side. I want the bully to protect me. And look, those two guys are ride or die, right? And so, and I think that, again, part of the intelligence of Draymond is realizing that he's the goon, that he's the enforcer, that he's going to do these things because that's his role, and he's going to try to get right up to the line, and he goes over the line a couple of times every year. And this is the latest of him doing that. You mentioned the Warriors 10-13. They started 5-1, JJ. They have lost 12 of their last 17 games. And it's not because Steph has been out and has missed all this time. They have serious problems that they have to work out. Steve Kerr, for the first time in a long time, is going to have to make serious decisions on who starts and who closes. Because it's always been, we have our starting 5 and we have our ending 5. It's just figuring it out in the middle. And now they don't know who the starting 5 is, and they don't know who the closing 5 is, and they don't know who's in the middle either.
Yeah, and this is a new era in the Western Conference. It's not just, we saw the Denver Nuggets win the championship last year, but we saw how good Sacramento is. Do you know who is the number one team in the Western Conference this year? The Minnesota Timberwolves.
Are they really?
Are 17-5. They're in first place in the West. And they have this dude, Anthony Edwards. That's the real deal. And then you have Karl-Anthony Towns that can kind of take a step back with Rudy Gobert in town. And, of course, the Rudy Gobert trade is the one everyone freaked out about when they're like, here's 4 first-round picks. Minnesota knew what they were doing of how to kind of build the core around Anthony Edwards. Oh, by the way, you know who's in second place? The Oklahoma City Thunder. It's a new era in the Western Conference.
Parity.
It's not going to be easy.
See what happens when you have a salary cap? Parity, JJ.
Houston Rockets are in the top 10. Like, this isn't just going to be as simple as, hey, we're the old vets, been there, done that. We can turn it on. Because you got young guys that are hungry, that are playing good. And you can't win a championship early in the season, but you can dig yourself a big enough hole they won't be playing for a championship. He is Josh Hushan, DC, JJ Buck with you here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal. Also, we can't have a show without a San Diego State Aztec in the studio. From Jeff Symbiota to Josh Hushan, can the Mountain West become the Big East of basketball in the Western United States? That is next here on the Sports Animal.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
We aren't all born with the same opportunities. But it's the people who care that change everything.
You ready, Sal? You ready?
My coach, my teacher, my older sisters, my grandma, my brother, my tutor, my dad, my mom.
As Mexicans, it's up to all of us to do our part.
So that no child goes without love.
And no family has to do it all on their own.
They're all our children. Every single person is called to make a difference in the life of a child.
It's up to all of us to do our part.
To pull together.
Pull together.
Pull together.
To make New Mexico the best place to be a kid.
We thank you.
International Protective Services is a proud supporter of ProView Sports and New Mexico Youth Athletics. IPS provides residential and commercial security services in the Albuquerque metro area. For more info, please call 505-897-2420 or visit internationalprotectiveservice.com.
Young driver, this one. Hard to get her out. She'd been drinking. This one. Both of them gone. They'd been drinking, and he drove clear off the road. This was my family. Drunk driver hit us. And my wife. And our daughter. They didn't make it.
Teenagers love a party, especially during prom and graduation season. Often alcohol is involved. Some parents think that hosting a party with alcohol in their home will keep the kids safe, but it's wrong and it's illegal. As a parent, to allow your teenagers, underage friends to consume alcohol on your property is a felony. Parents who host lose the most. Don't be a party to teenage drinking.
This is a program of the Drug Free Action Alliance. For more information, go to burnco.gov/do-not-host.
Albuquerque's leader in sports is ProView. From pros to prep. All your favorite action. All your favorite talk shows. Find it on ProView Networks.
ProView Networks would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible. Hans Weather Automotive, German car maintenance and repair in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Call 505-294-7684 or visit HansWillerAuto.com.
Hi, I'm Steve Sunker here for Dr. Robert Melendez and the Juliet Eye Institute. You may remember me like this, but no more. The glasses are gone. I tossed them months ago because of a brand new procedure from Dr. Melendez known as RLE, Refractive Lens Exchange. The latest technology, the best eyesight I've ever had in my life, and you can check it out by clicking on the link in the description right here.
Now, voted the best sports show in New Mexico
for 5 years running.
It's the OD in the AM with 3-time New Mexico Sportscaster of the Year, Jeff Symbieta and JJ Buck.
A little quiet this week when it comes to basketball around these parts. It's finals week at UNM, so the Lobomen won't be back in action until Friday night when they go down to Las Cruces to take on New Mexico State. Lobo women host Western New Mexico on Sunday. But the Mountain West Conference still moving, still shaking, as they got some games going on this week. And one of the things with the Mountain West is, can they continue to assert themselves on the basketball side? And with the gigantic shakeup in college athletics, the Pac-12 is no more. And you're going to have this weird feeling of there's nothing out west. That's what's going to happen. That's what it's going to feel like without the Pac-12. So could the Mountain West, on the basketball side, and as they continue to work on the football side, become a prominent basketball league that more and more on the national landscape is looked at as a big-time basketball conference? The head coach at the University of New Mexico thinks that opportunity is there. JJ Buck, DC, the voice of the Isotopes, Josh Shushan, with us this morning. The opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. So it came up in conversation last week at one of the media availabilities for Richard Pitino, just talking about non-conference scheduling, the conference as a whole, and he kind of slipped this in there. He's like, I think the Mountain West could be the Big East of the West, where you have a meaningful basketball conference. Of course, the Big East doesn't have a football presence anymore, but when you look at the programs, the investment, and how now there's a giant void in the Western United States, because it's not going to feel like anything is out here. Yeah, you still have USC and UCLA, but they're part of the Pac-10. And when we think of Pac-10, we don't think about the West Coast. Cal, Stanford, well, all right, you're going to the ACC. So there is a huge void that could be filled. And we have seen Mountain West get back the last couple of seasons to a multi-bid league. And to become the Big East, so you have to be 3+ every single year to try to have that type of impact on the national landscape. And right now, if you look at things in Ken Palm, the Ken Pomeroy rankings, it's a popular one for just deciding what a team is doing. If you look right now, it could be better for the Mountain West, but it's pretty good because you have Colorado State 27, San Diego State 32, New Mexico 33, Utah State 57, Nevada 62, Boise State 75. Those are your top 100 teams. You'd need a little bit more than that, especially when we're talking about becoming that type of basketball league, because then you look, UNLV's 132, San Jose State's 156, Fresno State's 159, Air Force 169, Wyoming 184. But it has a different impact now that there is a gigantic void of no power conference out west. And now the Mountain West is trying to slide in there and at least tempt Oregon State and Washington State become a part of the party, and maybe they all fly under that Pac-12 banner at some point in time, because you have the scheduling agreement in football for the next 2 seasons with those teams. But when you look out west, there's still teams here, but there's not that meaningful conference. Could the Mountain West actually fill that void in the national stage?
I love the idea. I love that Richard Pitino brought it up, and I hope it happens. Realistically, it's not going to happen, right? I hate to be a wet blanket here, and again, I'm glad that Richard said it, and he thinks about the time when his dad was coaching at Providence and when his dad was coaching the Big East. The problem is, what made the Big East when it became the Big East in the 80s is that, number one, not every game was on TV back then. The Big East was televised by ESPN, and the Big East teams were located in these major metro markets out east. And so their games were on at a time in which the entire country could watch them. I remember coming home from basketball practice, and the only thing that was on TV was the Big East on ESPN. The Mountain West Conference, as much as I would love it, it's just not going to happen. The time zones don't allow it for happen. The markets don't allow it for happen. People around the rest of the country just don't care about what happens in Logan, Utah, and Fort Collins, Colorado, and Boise, Idaho, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. They might care come March if those teams are really entertaining and exciting and get into the Sweet 16 and get all the way to the Final Four. Then they might start to care, but then they're going to go back to caring about what they do care about. What I do find interesting, though, JJ, remember, 5-6 years ago when the Mountain West tried to get Gonzaga? Mm-hmm. Remember? And there was some serious talks about it, and it didn't happen. But I think back to if they had gotten Gonzaga, if they had gotten St. Mary's, if they had brought the two of them together, how that would have changed the Mountain West and how it might change what's going to happen to these teams in the Mountain West as the Pac-2, Washington State and Oregon State, try to figure out what they're going to do after this 2-year scheduling alliance is done.
And that could still be a possibility because you look at the non-conference scheduling in St. Mary's, it feels like they play almost every Mountain West team. Mm-hmm. So there's a willingness there in the non-conference. Now, Gonzaga's built themselves such a brand where they can get away playing West Coast Conference basketball and not needing to be like, oh my goodness, we have to have a better conference schedule because they do play a really good non-conference schedule. Their metrics are usually really good, but you wonder too now that BYU's out of that league, BYU's playing in the Big 12. Would that maybe change things, and could that be back on the map moving forward? Because you just never know with college athletics where they're going to go with all the stuff that continues to come out about name, image, and likeness. That stuff is ultimately going to affect what the conferences do. Mm-hmm. Because that recent proposal that was put down last week about colleges taking over NIL ability and using their money to compensate student athletes, that's going to continue that push of hoarding all the high dollar schools. And so the movement is never done. But you're right. It's the battle you have out west is media markets. And you're not going to be on that scale. So I think for New Mexico, for the rest of the teams in the Mountain West Conference, continue to be consistent. Because you look at Colorado State, they are the major surprise to me.
Yeah,
I did not expect them to be this good this season. And that shows that this conference can contend. That shows that this conference can play at a high level. And we were just discussing it too, is because having those moments, because non-conference basketball, I think, has really lost its way because everything is about these MTEs. And so you don't get a lot of good home games. And then because of how big these conferences get, you don't see these teams wanting to play non-conference games. So you get a lot of MTEs, and sometimes they can wind up in empty buildings, which unfortunately we've seen with the Lobo men. They played 4 games in Henderson, and shout out to the Lobo fans that showed up, but you're playing in an empty arena. And so there's all these just different factors that are swirling around of how to make an impact, how to get on the national stage, how many hard games should you play? Because you look at Boise State, and they've played a really good non-conference schedule so far. Boise State, 28th hardest non-conference strength of schedule according to KenPom, and they've lost some of those games. And then you're running into that battle of, do we schedule up if we end up losing these games? So the one thing I will say, that the one kind of drawback for the 9-1 Lobos right now, 219 is their strength of schedule.
This is what happens when you are in charge of your own schedule. Imagine if Major League Baseball teams could schedule their own opponents, right? And so this is the problem for college athletics, especially college basketball, is it's hard to build up momentum, like you said, when you don't get these great games on campuses in your arenas. And the best teams, they're not coming out west. The only way that the Mountain West Conference can get quality opponents is by playing neutral site or going there. Now UNLV and San Diego State, because of their names and their cities, they can schedule a few. Like San Diego State and Gonzaga, they're going to play home and home. San Diego State's been able to get some other games, but it's just really hard for all the other teams in the Mountain West. So you have to go to these empty places. And that's because of TV, because TV has said you're getting a certain amount of money, but we need content. And TV wants to control these things in terms of the starting times and where they're located. And then you get tourism departments that say, like, hey, come out to Cancun. We need people to come out to Cancun, so we're going to put together this package for you. And that all... And then you want to play in these tournaments because now you get 2 extra games. So now you can play 2 more games, and that brings in more. And so it just becomes this vicious cycle. But it ultimately comes back to this is what happens when you get to make your own schedule.
Yeah, and that schedule for the Mountain West Conference, you can never feel good about what's going to happen in college athletics because you just never know what's going to be that tipping point of what finally, because more and more now than ever before, the haves and the have-nots are telling you what they have and what they don't have. But I think for the Mountain West Conference, basketball is going to be successful. I think we're going to see at least a few more years of multiple teams getting in, solid runs. What San Diego State did last year, I think someone else is going to win a couple games, has to win a couple games in the tournament to build that momentum. And it is that piece of what happens because right now, Washington State and Oregon State, while they were left out, they have a pretty solid base because they're winning a lot of these court battles right now when it comes to who owns the revenue that remains of the Pac-12 conference, who can like own the naming rights of that. And if you can continue, and that's what I think Gloria Nevada, as the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference, has done a fantastic job of building that relationship, getting them, hey, we'll help you out on the football side. Let's do this scheduling alignment. Because that also could be the game changer of what you just talked about when we started this conversation of name brand being known. If all of a sudden these teams are flying under the Pac-12 banner, well, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to be watching, but that gets you noticed differently than flying under the Mountain West banner.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, look, this is just going to be super fun for the Mountain West Conference this year because there's so many teams that are good. And so my fear, though, is that because there's so many teams that are good, they just start knocking each other off.
And they don't get the benefit like the other leagues would.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's one thing if it's just the top 4 or 5 teams that knock each other off. But then when you start losing to the teams that are at the bottom of the conference as well, when they start knocking some teams off, and then it becomes even more challenging. I mean, I think that the Mountain West is at like this very precarious moment where it could fall apart, but it could also be really good, depending on what happens. And one last point, at least for now, is that I think that one of the reasons why the Mountain West Conference is so good at men's basketball is you have a lot of coaches who are really good, who know what they're doing, and they're not looking for the next job. You've got the Steve Alfreds, you've got the Brian Dutchers, you've got the Richard Pittinos, who have the pedigree, who have the knowledge, and they're not chasing the next job. Now, all of those guys might end up leaving again, but I think you have enough coaches throughout the league that have been around long enough that are like, I got it here, and so I can like build some continuity.
That's really a point, too, of the coaching of finding some consistency in a landscape that is so inconsistent when it comes to coaches, players, and conference alignment. 505-246-0610, that's Sports Animal Hotline. Also, the Sports Animal text line. If you did not know, this man, Josh Shushan, is also a fantastic writer. And when we're talking about conference realignment, how about Major League Baseball realignment? What would that do for the game? Get into that next here on the Sports Animal.
This report is sponsored by Pfizer.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Teenagers love a party, especially during prom and graduation season. Often alcohol is involved. Some parents think that hosting a party with alcohol in their home will keep the kids safe, but it's wrong and it's illegal. As a parent, to allow your teenagers' underage friends to consume alcohol on your property is a felony. Parents who host lose the most. Don't be a party to teenage drinking.
This is a program of the Drug Free Action Alliance. For more information, go to burnco.gov/do-not-post.
We aren't all born with the same opportunities. But it's the people who care that change everything.
You ready, Sal? You ready?
My coach, my teacher, my older sisters, my grandma, my brother, my tutor, my dad, my mom.
As Mexicans, it's up to all of us to do our part.
So that no child goes without love.
And no family has to do it all on their own.
They're all our children. Every single person is called to make a difference in the life of a child.
It's up to all of us to do our part.
To pull together.
Pull together.
Pull together.
To make New Mexico the best place to be a kid.
Hi, my name is Daniel Chavez, and this is my business partner, David Chavez. We are the owners of Indeed Safety. Indeed Safety is a local safety consulting company helping our clients with their safety needs for their projects.
One of the things we pride ourselves as a construction safety company is helping our men and women in construction get home safe every day to their families. Indeed Safety is a proud supporter of ProView Network.
Young driver, this one. Hard to get her out. She'd been drinking. This one. Both of them gone. They'd been drinking, and he drove clear off the road. This was my family. Drunk driver hit us. And my wife and our daughter, they didn't make it.
For your surprisingly rare race, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Marty Size in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey, look! It's Dwight Goodman! This place is hot. Let's see if anyone needs my help. How about I drive the Batman home, huh?
I got this, Dwight. I'm the designated driver. Boom.
Sweet.
Does anyone need Dwight's help getting home tonight?
No thanks, Romeo. I've got a taxi all lined up.
Drive safe, Dwight.
I was born in New Mexico. I grew up on the streets. I got in trouble here, and I fought my way back and moved here. I love New Mexico, especially the people. Now I'm using my training, tenacity, and energy to fight for the youth. I'm Adam Oakey, lawyer, fighter, and New Mexican. I was a local athlete here in New Mexico, so I'm proud to support your local athletes.
Rosendo Mahad here, President of Carpenters Local 1319.
Juan Junior Gonzalez, Warden of Local 1319. Some people have a misconception about what a carpenter does.
The carpentry trade entails more than just woodworking or building houses. We are responsible for 85% of a construction job site. Everything from the superintendent on down. We have a great apprenticeship program. Information can be found on our website.
Albuquerque's leader in sports is ProView. From pros to prep. All your favorite action. All your favorite talk shows. Find it on ProView Networks.
The Wizards, Capitals, their owner plans to move those teams from DC to Virginia. So you got pro sports teams always looking to move. What does that do about divisions, realignment? No, the DC to Virginia thing doesn't switch up all that much. You know, Oakland to Vegas, we've seen it. But is it time to think about changing things up? And you know what? Major League Baseball might do it because they have been open to change more than I think people assumed a league like Major League Baseball would be. And our very own Josh Shushan had a fantastic write-up on that. It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal. JJ Buck DC, the voice of the Isotopes, Josh Shushan, with us this morning. And if you did not know, Josh Shushan writes fantastic posts, and you can follow him You can sign up. Where can people find all the work that you do?
So the modern day version of a blog is called Substack. Substack is really good for writers. It basically is a collection of writers, and they can decide whether they want to make it free or some of it is behind a paywall or all of it's behind a paywall. And so they can find me on joshuasushon.substack.com, or you just go to Substack and you can find the writings that I do when I remember to write them.
Yeah, because you have all the time in the world just to do this. But you put one together I thought was really interesting. Because when you talk about Major League Baseball, you can feel like you don't have a chance. And we talked about that this morning, but then you're like, hold up. Since 2001, 16 different teams have won the World Series. And that's more teams than in the other pro sports. So while it might feel hopeless at times as a fan of a non-gigantic revenue team, when you see the headlines the Dodgers make, are the Yankees acquiring Juan Soto, you do have to take a step back and go, well, top 3 teams in payroll did not make the playoffs last year in Major League Baseball. Oh, look at all the different teams that have won the World Series. We just watched the Texas Rangers play the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I don't think many people had that in their preseason selection. But would realignment help change things for Major League Baseball? And I thought it was fascinating, too, because one of the things that gets lost, whether they're talking about college athletics, whether they're talking about pro sports, is regionalizing things can be okay, and that can actually help your fan base. That can help. Hey, you can go on easier road trips. You can maybe go to more games. You're still going to get a chance to see everyone in these leagues. But what brought you to that thought of, hey, I want to expand on something like division realignment in Major League Baseball?
It was watching the Rangers and the Astros in the postseason because it was so intense, and you could just see the way that the fans got into it. The fact that these two teams are in the same state, but one of them was terrible and the other was great for their entire history until this year when they both got good. And remember, the Astros were in the National League for a long time. It was fairly controversial when they got moved into the American League. But how good it has been for the rivalry of those two teams, and then seeing how much bad blood there was. That's good for sports. Rivalries are good for sports. And it made me think, especially because baseball is becoming more and more of a regional sport, let's lean into these regional rivalries. The California teams should play each other all the time. The Dodgers should not just play the Giants and the Padres a bunch. They should play the A's and the Angels a bunch. The Yankees and the Mets and those teams, they should all play each other on a regular basis. When baseball got really, really good way, way back in the day in the 1920s, 1930s, it's because there was 3 teams in New York and they were all playing each other all the time, right? What happens in sports is we keep doing things because that's the way that we've always done things. There's been a National League and there's been an American League, and so we have to keep those things because of tradition. But even look at the NBA. All the teams in the NBA, you got a West and the East. All the teams out West play each other a whole bunch, and I think that's good for sports. And I don't think that Major League Baseball is going to do radical realignment until expansion occurs. But if I was commissioner, I would do it right away. I would lean into radical realignment that's a very regional basis immediately.
And I love what you did with this, too, is a lot of it is simple. Like, of course, the new NL West, San Francisco, San Diego, the Dodgers, Angels, Mariners. Keep it simple. Up the coast. And then Arizona, Colorado, Las Vegas, Texas, Houston. That makes a ton of sense. I really do like the new AL East. Boston, Yankees, Mets, Orioles, and Phillies.
It was fun sitting down and kind of dividing up. You're like, okay, well, for sure I want these teams together, and for sure I want these teams together. But then you have to start making hard decisions because the math doesn't always line up with 5 per division and with 6 different leagues. And so you start going, okay, wait a minute, do I want the Pirates in the National League East, or do I want to pair the Pirates with, with Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Cincinnati? And okay, well, what do I do about Toronto now if I'm going to do them, or then where do I put Minnesota? But a lot of them are really basic and obvious. And again, the Red Sox, Yankees, Mets, Orioles, Phillies. And again, you can drive to all of those places if you're a fan, right? And I just think that you need to lean into doing these regional rivalries. The Cubs and the White Sox should be in the same division. And oh, by the way, the Brewers, which are an hour north, should be in that same division. But you don't want to break up the Cubs and the Cardinals. So you need to keep them in there. But you also don't want to break up the Reds and the Cubs and the Cardinals. So it just becomes really fun when you start writing down the teams and who are the rivalries that you can't break up and who are the rivalries that we should create. And so it's just one of those things where I'm sitting at home in front of a laptop and let's just totally change baseball.
Well, it's awesome because you see these leagues they're always thinking what's next. We saw the NBA this year with the NBA in-season tournament. They realized, all right, it's an 82-game regular season. What can we do to try to get a few more headlines earlier in the season that doesn't involve Draymond Green kicking and punching someone? And the NBA in-season tournament, it's going to take a little bit of time because fans don't like change.
Correct.
Fans like to rain on anything that doesn't involve a championship. Like if you don't win a championship, if you haven't won a Super Bowl as a quarterback, you're never any good at what you do. That's how we're built. That's how these mediums have come to be: social media, sports talk radio, etc. But then you start talking about it. Like we had Kenny Thomas in studio yesterday. And by the way, Kenny Thomas kicking it with KT, going to be a segment every Tuesday and Friday, 9 to 9:30 here on the opening drive. Former NBA player, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm on board with this." He liked the NBA in-season tournament because it brought a different energy. It had players playing harder in November and December. So while change can be hard to embrace at times, it's good for sport. And I do think whether you're baseball, NBA, hockey, whatever it may be, you always got to be thinking of not blowing up the whole system, but how can we tweak the system? How can we continue to maintain an interest when outside of football, because we are invested in it, it's 18 weeks of the NFL regular season. You have your fantasy football team. You sit there for 6 days just going crazy over what your lineup is going to be on Sunday, watching Thursday. Like, it's hard to be invested that long in a regular season. So what can you do? What are the little things that create that spark that just give you some moments?
I like that the NBA is more willing to try new things than any other league, even when it comes to how they pick their all-star teams and things like that. You do have to worry about becoming too gimmicky, and I think the NBA has tried so many different things that it's hard to keep up with all the different things that the NBA is doing. I think that baseball had that a little bit with, like, okay, there's all these new rules that they had last year. Now there's ideas of, are we going to tweak those rules? Or are we going to continue to add more? And I think it's let people kind of process all the changes that you gave at them so that it becomes the new normal with pitch clocks and bigger bases and things like that. And so let everyone get settled into that and then start to add new things. I still don't know what I think of the NBA in-season tournament. It's still a little bit too gimmicky than I would prefer. I still kind of I think there should be a little bit more of a payout other than just literally cash, but that's definitely going to motivate the players, right?
Because you want that connection as a fan. Like,
right.
Why should a fan care about this? That was my biggest question. Of, okay, they get $500,000. Do I buy an in-season tournament T-shirt? Do I
right? Yeah.
Do I get on social media and go in-season tournament champs, baby?
Are we going to hang a banner? I guess they are going to hang a banner.
The Lakers apparently are going to put up a banner for that. So you want, all right, this to mean something. And DC had a great idea yesterday. Now it's one that not necessarily going to be like, oh my gosh, we're the champions. But he said, what if you had you just created a pick in between the first and second round of the NBA draft and say the in-season tournament winner gets that pick? Just like added thing for the franchise. You're playing for something. Because, yeah, I get it. It's awesome that those guys, because not a lot of players on the Lakers roster are making LeBron James money. So they got their bag. But as a fan, you're like, what do we get out of this? What does our franchise get?
I still think that for me to embrace the in-season tournament more, I still want a little bit more of a payout at the end, even if it's just your guaranteed home court advantage on a certain level. You know, I mean, if you win the in-season tournament and then you become the 8th seed, it's kind of hard to justify that you should have home court advantage. But there's probably should be some type of tweak that's in there that allows you some type of preferred status when it comes to home court advantage, because this way you're not making a complete mockery of it, but at the same time, there should be some, all right, you won this early, and so this is your payoff later in the season, and this is where, as a fan, look, if anyone buys an in-season tournament championship T-shirt, I'm sure hope that they're just doing it just for the irony of the whole thing. I don't think anyone's going to get that serious about it, right?
I kind of want the Nuggets to win one just so I can buy an in-season tournament championship. Be like, yeah. But guess what, DC? We got a real championship in Denver. That's what's up. It's the opening drive. We got Josh Ushan in studio, DC, JJ Buck with you. Speaking of having a chance, have you seen the AFC and NFC wildcard races? I know you have. Josh just asked me, he's like, how you feeling? You're a Broncos fan. You're in contention. How you feeling? Do you want to be all in or out? Are you okay with just having a chance as a fan? We're going to talk about that next here on The Sports Animal.
We're all moving a little faster now.
Trust the team that's going to...
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Rosendo Nahad here, President of Carpenters Local 1319.
Juan Junior Gonzalez, Warden of Local 1319. Some people have a misconception about what a carpenter does.
The carpentry trade entails more than just woodworking or building houses. We are responsible for 85% of a construction job site. Everything from the superintendent on down. We have a great apprenticeship program. Information can be found on our website.
If you're drunk, blasted, intoxicated, rip, plaster, destroyed, bruh. If you're like this, you shouldn't be driving.
These days, it's important to know people and businesses you can trust. There's a lot of places where you can buy a vehicle, but there's only a few local dealerships where you'll find honest people who have your best interests in mind. And Fiesta Kia is one of them. We've been helping our neighbors save money and drive dependable cars for years, and we'd love to help you. With new Kias arriving daily, you'll love our selection and the peace of mind you'll get driving a Kia from Fiesta. So stop by and see us today at Fiesta Kia on Lomas, or just start driving now at fiestakia.com.
Teenagers love a party, especially during prom and graduation season. Often, alcohol is involved. Some parents think that hosting a party with alcohol in their home will keep the kids safe, but it's wrong and it's illegal. As a parent, to allow your teenagers' underage friends to consume alcohol on your property is a felony. Parents who host lose the most. Don't be a party to teenage drinking.
This is a program of the Drug Free Action Alliance. For more information, go to burnco.gov/do-not-host.
Burglary takes place in the United States approximately every 15 seconds. International Protective Service is your answer for commercial and residential security in all of Albuquerque. IPS will work with your monitoring company for fast, reliable response times. You can rest easy knowing you, your family, or your company is watched over by International Protective Service. Call International Protective Service today.
For your surprisingly great race, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Marty Size in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey, look! It's Dwight Goodman! This place is hot. Let's see if anyone needs my help. How would I drive the madman home, huh?
I got this, Dwight. I'm the designated driver. Boom.
Sweet. Does anyone need Dwight's help getting home tonight?
No thanks, Romeo. I've got a taxi all lined up.
Drive safe, Dwight.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, red and green chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier sweet rolls. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride barbecue chicken and ribs are proud supporters of Pro V Sports.
I was born in New Mexico. I grew up on these streets. I got in trouble here, and I fought my way back in boot camp. I love New Mexico, especially the people. Now I'm using my training, tenacity, and energy to fight for you. I'm Adam Oki, lawyer, fighter, and New Mexican. I was a local athlete here in New Mexico, so I'm proud to support your local athletes.
FM and AM 610, the sports animal.
As we get ready for week 15 of the NFL season, starts Thursday night. Chargers and Raiders. Aiden O'Connell versus Easton Stick. Your matchup, and have fun with that. You made the playoffs with Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler on your roster. I'm that guy. Hopefully get a lot of dump offs. You saw Austin Eckler, pretty good PPR game, found the end zone last week. Keenan Allen still the number 1 target. So not a tough match against the Raiders. So play your studs. There's everyone, like half the league has a backup quarterback at this point in time. You still got to play your studs in these matchups. But it's a game in which you got 2 5-8 teams. Season is trending in the wrong direction. Justin Herbert out had surgery on his broken index finger. But then you look up in the AFC, you have the Steelers, Colts, Texans, Broncos, Bengals, Bills, all 7-6. You glance over at the NFC. You have the Packers, Rams, Seahawks, Falcons, and Saints, all 6-7. So you're saying there's a chance. Do you like that chance as a fan, or do you feel, are you one of those fans that, well, if I don't think my team can win a championship, I just want them to be out. I want them to be done. You asked me the question, Josh. You're like, how do you feel about the Broncos? I'm like, I feel a lot better about the Broncos. Do I think they could win multiple playoff games? I don't. But I'm glad that they're competing. And I have a different feeling about football than I do other sports. And I'll explain that. He is Josh Ushan, DC. I'm JJ Buck with you here on the opening drive, because tanking does not work in the NFL. Tanking does not guarantee you anything. It might guarantee a number 1 overall pick, but the odds of that guy being Peyton Manning, John Elway, Dan Marino is the same as those guys being Joey Harrington, Achilles Smith, or David Carr. Like, it guarantees you nothing. Like, there's too many factors in the NFL. The rosters are too big to think that, oh, just because you're drafting number 1 overall, Caleb Williams, guaranteed. No. Like, Bryce Young, right? Who's better? Bryce Young or CJ Stroud? Right now, it's CJ Stroud. But like, when it comes to the NFL, like, I want my teams to compete. I know there's a lot of fans that are frustrated, and I think a good example of this is the Pittsburgh Steelers fans. They haven't been terrible, but they haven't been good, and so you're like, at the last couple of years have been Roethlisberger up until now, they haven't won a playoff game. And you're like, well, you just want to be bad to make that transition. I don't think it's that simple. So that's why I think when we look at the NFL and you see all these 7-6 teams, you see all these 6-7 teams, I'm okay with that, because the organizational foundation in football, like, if you stink and you're getting a number 1 overall pick, like, you're usually that bad for a while. So that's why I think tanking in football is overrated. And to answer your question, Josh, yeah, I want my team to have a chance. I feel okay even if I'm a 7-6, 6-7 team that just gets into the playoffs. But I believe in that more than saying, oh, we stink and the number 1 pick is going to save us.
Well, this is Bad Talk Radio when both hosts agree with one another, but I don't want to just make up something in order to have debate. And I'm mostly the same way as you. The only time that I want my favorite teams to lose is when I absolutely positively cannot stand the head coach and the quarterback, and I want them gone. That's the only time. I think that one of the fascinating things for me about the way that sports fans think is how this shift has happened over the last couple of decades, how teams want to lose so that they can kind of plan for the future. And obviously, the more I think about it, I think it's just because of the rise of draft coverage, mock drafts, just how popular the draft is, that people are so into the draft that they would rather see their teams lose. It used to be, as a fan, it was embarrassing that you had the worst record, and this draft would happen, and you'd read about it in the paper, and now the draft in all sports, but especially the NFL, are so all-consuming that it has fans thinking this way, and it's bizarre to me. I want my teams to win. I want to be happy in the moment. I don't want to have my teams lose and then hope that means that sometime in the future I want to win, and I do think that there is something to be said for the momentum of winning, because that impacts free agents wanting to come there. That it means that you're not starting over every single year. I don't even with the Raiders right now. I am a recovering Raiders fan. At 5-8, there's a part of me that says, yeah, kind of, if they lose every game the rest of the way, it wouldn't break my heart. But ultimately, I just think they just need a new quarterback anyways. And so I'm kind of on this, okay, well, we have an interim coach. We don't have a quarterback. In this case, I guess I wouldn't mind if they lost every game the rest of the year, but I don't really want my teams to lose.
I think that's a great point. In DC, I felt this way last year about the Denver Broncos. I got in that mode where I was not on the Nathaniel Hackett bandwagon. I was like, I do not want this dude to somehow stumble into win a couple games, be back, and here we go. And people call me crazy. People said, you're just a shock jock. Because I remember after that Monday night game where they lost in Seattle, where we just watched Peyton Manning on the Manning cast just go timeout, timeout, timeout like 102 times. And they're like, this dude doesn't know what he's doing. And we saw that play out. He had to hire a coach for clock management. But I think that's fascinating. How do you feel as a fan about, hey, are you happy your team's competing in this race when you have so many different teams in playoff contention now in the NFL? Or are you one of those fans that feels like, well, we're not going to win a championship anyway. Let's just get the best pick available?
First and foremost, I absolutely hate losing. So I can't stand it. So going back to last year with Hackett and everything, it was interesting because by the end of the Hackett portion of the season, I was kind of like, who cares? Let's just lose and get it over with. But it goes back to Josh's point where it's like, I was done with the coach. Now, enter Jerry Roseberg. I was psyched that they started winning and turning it around at the end. And I didn't actually care so much about the draft pick. Of course, it was already traded. So, whatever. It's not ours to begin with. But I can't stand losing. It is so tough to deal with as a fan, for me personally.
I will say this. To me, there's a difference between your team going, I have to do the math here since there's 17 games now instead of 16 games. To me, there's a difference between your team going, say, like 2-15 versus 5-12. Well, there's no difference in that in my mind. But if my team has a chance of the playoffs, I want my team in the playoffs. I want to be excited. I want to be pumped, even if I think, well, the chances of us winning 4 games and winning the Super Bowl are really minuscule. So what? I want my team to be in the playoffs. To me, there's a big difference between playoffs versus not playoffs versus 2-15 compared to 5-12.
Yeah, and I think a great case is this year. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you want your team in the playoffs because that fan base is split on the future of Mike Tomlin. You have Ben Roethlisberger coming out now questioning their organization and questioning the tradition of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's one of those internal battles because you have fans, and I know I've seen plenty of comments that are like, oh, I'm done with Mike Tomlin. We need to move on. So then you'd be rooting for your team to lose at that point in time as opposed to getting to the playoffs. And the 7-6 teams in the NFC, how are you feeling as a fan? The 6 and 7 teams in the NFC, playoffs, yes, playoffs matter. I think in football, tanking is absolutely overrated because I can look at the number 1 picks, and there's been plenty of guys who are like, this is the next can't-miss quarterback. But if you have a bad organization, you don't have a commitment to winning, you can waste talent. And we see that all the time, not just in football, but in sport. If you're not committed to winning, and I think you have to be committed to winning to get it done in the NFL, as opposed to thinking that tanking for a draft pick is going to save your franchise. 505-246-0610. That is the Sports Animal Hotline. Also, the Sports Animal text line for you to get involved this morning. Speaking of Shohei Ohtani, it wasn't just the contract signing with the Dodgers that changed things. It was a report that shifted the betting market, and it shows you. Jeff Simbera loves to talk about it all the time with the 3-for-all. When we think we know, and we're like, oh, these are my favorite bets of the weekend, and we come back on Monday, and we're all losers. There's going to be a lot of people sitting on Toronto Blue Jays World Series tickets. Why is that? Tell you next here on The Sports Animal.
This report is sponsored by Boot.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible. International Protective Services is a proud supporter of ProView Sports and New Mexico Youth Athletics. IPS provides residential and commercial security services in the Albuquerque metro area. For more info, please call 505-897-2420 or visit internationalprotectiveservice.com.
I was born in New Mexico. I grew up on these streets. I got in trouble here, and I fought my way back and moved here. I love New Mexico, especially the people. Now I'm using my training, tenacity, and energy to fight for you. I'm Adam Oki, lawyer, fighter, and New Mexican. I was a local athlete here in New Mexico, so I'm proud to support your local athletes.
Rudy's is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Albuquerque's leader in sports is ProView. From pros to prep, all your favorite action. All your favorite talk shows. Find it on ProView Networks.
Young driver, this one. Hard to get her out. She'd been drinking. This one. Both of them gone. They'd been drinking, and he drove clear off the road. This was my family. Drunk driver hit us. And my wife and our daughter, they didn't make it.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, red and green chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier sweet rolls. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs are proud supporters of ProView Sports.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth that's real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I've ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Hi, my name is Daniel Chavez, and this is my business partner, David Chavez. We are the owners of Indeed Safety. Indeed Safety is a local safety consulting company helping our clients with their safety needs for their projects.
One of the things we pride ourselves as a construction safety company is helping our men and women in construction
get home safe every day to their families. Indy Safety is a proud supporter of ProView Network.
Teenagers love a party, especially during prom and graduation season. Often, alcohol is involved. Some parents think that hosting a party with alcohol in their home will keep the kids safe, but it's wrong and it's illegal. As a parent, to allow your teenagers' underage friends to consume alcohol on your property is a felony. Parents who host lose the most. Don't be a party to teenage drinking.
This is a program of the Drug Free Action Alliance. For more information, go to burnco.gov/do-not-host.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Hey, look! It's Dwight Goodman! Boom! This place is hot. Let's see if anyone needs my help. How about I drive the madman home, huh?
I got this, Dwight. I'm the designated driver. Boom.
Sweet. Does anyone need Dwight's help getting home tonight?
No thanks, Romeo. I've got a taxi all lined up.
Drive safe, Dwight.
Albuquerque's
The Sports Animal.
It's chasing the thrill. That one time you win. And that one daily fantasy lineup that cashes. That one ticket that you got right. Put $20 down before the season started. And you came out on top. There's going to be a lot of people sitting on Toronto Blue Jays World Series tickets. And why is that? It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. J.J. Buck DC, joined by Josh Shushan, voice of the Isotopes this morning. And it's because of Shohei Ohtani and the thought of where was he going to go. And unfortunately, there was a false report out there last week. I think it was Friday. John Morosi, guy you see him all over the place, and he's on TV doing interviews with
usually
players.
Reliable.
Yeah, MLB reporter. He got it wrong, and he put it out there on Twitter that Shohei Ohtani was on a plane to Toronto. And what did people do? They flocked to the sports books and put money down on the Toronto Blue Jays. First off, I love Shohei Ohtani, but him signing with the Toronto Blue Jays would not have made me think that they're immediately winning the World Series.
Especially the first year.
Yeah.
When he's only hitting.
To go in. But that is what bettors did, because on Friday, after the rumors were swirling that Ohtani was going to Toronto, the Blue Jays World Series odds improved from 15-1 to as short as 8-1, behind only the Braves and the Dodgers, as BetMGM Sportsbook saw 85% of the money wagered on the World Series odds in favor of Toronto. That's on you.
Yep.
Yes, it was a false report, but also to think that I love Shohei Ohtani. I've said it multiple times. I think he's the best baseball player I'm ever going to see in my lifetime. I don't think that if he signed with the Blue Jays, I would have got a Blue Jays World Series ticket this year.
Everyone's looking for that little edge,
Yeah.
right? Everyone's looking to win the margins, right? Everyone's trying to get 2% better, 1% better. Gamblers are really like that. And
especially like you see it on Twitter and then you just open the app, you're like, boom, I got it.
That's the other thing, too, is because everything is so instantaneous now, it's hard to get that advantage. There was a story I read. So I read this book about ESPN, like the beginning stages of ESPN. And there was this crazy story that got reported in this book about ESPN about how before there was the internet and all of these things, if you were in the offices of ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut, you kind of you knew information before like other people did, right? And so apparently there was some game on the West Coast that started 30 minutes earlier than what the sports books thought it was going to open. And one of the teams got off to like a 5-0 lead in the first inning. And so all of these ESPN employees who were betting big at the time bet big because they realized the sports book doesn't know this game has already started. They think it starts in 30 minutes and one team already has a 5-0 lead. So they bet big, huge, enormous sums of money. And guess what happened, JJ? They lost. They lost. And apparently, like on the air that night, Chris Berman or someone like that, was doing the score and then just randomly said something like, and in a game that had a lot of people here in Bristol really glued to the television, and like said the score because so many of the employees
thought they
bet
had
that,
the
right?
inside information.
Yeah, because it's before the internet, it's before Twitter, it's before all of that, and these employees thought that they had a shot at it. This is why, JJ, I am so glad that my gambling is minuscule, that it's like, all right, I'll do a $5 weekly pool. All right, I'll play fantasy. That's the extent of it. I'm so glad.
I agree. And it's one that I know a lot of people are clamoring for legalized sports betting. And the fact that you still have to drive, like you go, we can do it, but you go, Isleta, wherever it may be, you got to go somewhere. It's saving a lot of people. Instead of just being able to sit down, unless I get it, VPNs, I know people are doing it and still, but if it was wide open, I know DC would be sweating a lot more each morning we see him.
I feel like the more that I know about sports, the more that it makes me not want to gamble about sports.
No, I totally agree. I don't bet for that reason. I feel like I know enough to know that it's I'm much better off spending my money elsewhere.
You know enough to know that you don't know.
Yes.
It's kind of the way you get. But I thought that was a fascinating story because it ended up, I don't know, like, was someone playing a prank or were they just trying to be like, I got you? Because there was a private jet that was flying to Toronto.
It was the Shark Tank guy.
Shark Tank guy.
Yes.
And not Shohei Ohtani.
Yes, and there's people who think that this was all part of a plan because the Shark Tank guy is also represented by CAA. And he did an interview with The Athletic, and he's like, it's crazy that one piece of information makes people think this. He goes, I haven't talked to my agents in 3 months. He goes, there's nothing to the story.
Going to Toronto.
He's like, I'm going to Toronto because that's where he's from.
And people are sitting there going, well, I hope Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has an amazing year for the Toronto Blue Jays and all those World Series tickets. We're going to go into the red zone next because speaking of winners, DC wants to know about division winners in the NFL. Coming up next here on The Sports Animal.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
Albuquerque's leader in sports is ProView. From pros to prep, all your favorite action. All your favorite talk shows. Find it on ProView Networks.
Hey, look! It's Dwight Goodman! This place is hot. Let's see if anyone needs my help. How would I drive the madman home, huh?
I got this, Dwight. I'm the designated driver. Boom.
Sweet. Does anyone need Dwight's help getting home tonight?
No thanks, Romeo. I've got a taxi all lined up.
Drive safe, Dwight.
Rosendo Mahad here, president of Carpenters Local 1319.
Juan Junior Gonzalez, warden of Local 1319. Some people have a misconception about what a carpenter does.
The carpentry trade entails more than just woodworking or building houses. We are responsible for 85% of a construction job site. Everything from the superintendent on down. We have a great apprenticeship program. Information can be found on our website.
These days, it's important to know people and businesses you can trust. There's a lot of places where you can buy a vehicle, but there's only a few local dealerships where you'll find honest people who have your best interests in mind. And Fiesta Kia is one of them. We've been helping our neighbors save money to drive dependable cars for years, and we'd love to help you. With new Kias arriving daily, you'll love our selection and the peace of mind you'll get driving a Kia from Fiesta. So stop by and see us today at Fiesta Kia on Lomas, or just start driving now at fiestakia.com.
What's going on, Lobo Nation? Ja'Cory Cross-Camara here.
And I'm Devin Dampier. The Lobo football team is going through some changes, but we're here to stay.
We'll put in the work on the field and in the weight room, but we'll need your help off the field.
505 Sports Venture is leading the charge in the NIL space.
And you can be part of it.
Try this shit better than all my intentions. I make sure that you got my attention. See your baby, I get you the business. Touchdown and pay you a visit.
For 50 years, Clark's Pet Emporium has been your pet's favorite stop. Santa Paws has left thousands of holiday gifts for your furry, scaly, and winged family members. Pick up a gift for a pet lover or even a new pet. Clark's has shelves full of pet beds, sweaters, toys and treats, habitats, and tanks galore. Locally owned and operated with 2 convenient locations for all your pet needs. 11200 Manal Northeast or 4914 Lomas Northeast. Clark's is celebrating 50 years. Thanks to you, the Christmas Superstore. ClarksPets.com.
Starting with the NFC North. Right now, you've got the Lions at 9-4. You've got the Vikings at 7-6. You got the Packers at 6-7. The Bears at 5-8. Packers, especially after their loss, I don't think you're making up 3 games in 4 weeks. So I'm not even going to look at the Packers. I'm just looking at Lions and Vikings. And here's what's interesting, JJ. The Lions and Vikings play each other twice. They still play each other twice, the final week of the season and the third to last week of the season. So even though the Vikings are 2 back in the loss column, they can tie right there, and now you got the head-to-head advantage. At the same time, Vikings quarterback situation is very well documented. So for the Lions, though, they have the Broncos, the Vikings twice, and the Cowboys. They could conceivably go 0-4. They're probably not, but it would not be out of the question, and it would be the most Detroit Lions thing to do. Them to get off to that great of a start, have all that momentum, and then completely collapse at the end. I'm not saying the Lions are going to choke this away, but I'm not saying that I would be surprised if the Lions choke this away.
I have to agree with you on that one. Detroit showing a lot of warts, and I got the AFC North, and so that comes down to Baltimore and Cleveland. I don't think the Steelers or Bengals at 7-6 are going to be in the division title race, so I'm going to hyper-focus in on the 10-3 Baltimore Ravens, who happen to be the number 1 seed right now in the AFC, and the Cleveland Browns, who can still be in that race, y'all. Cleveland is 8-5. Joe Flacco throwing wide open 30-yard touchdown passes last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Baltimore has the tougher schedule. The next 3 weeks, Baltimore at Jacksonville, at San Francisco. They play the Miami Dolphins, and they wrap up with Pittsburgh. For Cleveland, they get Chicago, at Houston, the Jets, and at Cincinnati. I think that Cleveland is going to put a scare into the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to win that division by 1 game, but it's going to get closer than anyone would ever expect because Cleveland, they're fantastic at home. They're 6-1 at home. They get Chicago and the Jets at home. They can win those games. They can win at Cincinnati on the road. And heck, we just saw what a defense did to the Houston Texans. But I think the Ravens hold on by 1 game.
2nd and goal.
I like that a lot. Very, very good stuff. Let's try the same thing, AFC and the NFC East.
I'll start with the AFC East. So this comes down to Miami and Buffalo. Miami 9-4, Buffalo 7-6. And the Bills are the team that you keep buying into the Bills. What they did last week against Kansas City was gigantic. Because it was also a week that going into it, the leaks, the cracks started to show. You had stories about Sean McDermott from 2019 making bad 9/11 analogies. Like, why is this coming out now? Oh, this ship could be sinking. No, they won a game at Kansas City. And for Miami, they got the Jets, Cowboys at Baltimore, Buffalo, final week of the season. And the Bills, they have Dallas at the Chargers, New England, and Miami. And the Buffalo Bills are going to win this division.
You think so? I think they're going to catch them.
I do.
They're 2 back in the loss column. You think they're going to catch them?
I do. I think Miami can lose the last 3 games of the season.
All right, so I have the NFC East, and I'm really big when I get my crystal ball out and looking who can win both at home and on the road. So you've got the Cowboys and the Eagles, and both teams are 10-3. The biggest difference in my mind is that the Cowboys are 7-0 at home and 3-3 on the road. And you look at Dallas's final 4 games. 3 of the 4 are on the road, JJ. At Bills, at Dolphins, at Commanders, plus their 1 home game is against the Lions. Whereas the Eagles, at Seattle, tough place to play. Home against the Giants, home against the Cardinals, and then at the Giants. Easily, for sure, the Eagles are going to go 3-1. They're probably going to go 4-0. I like the Eagles. Right now, it's a dead heat. I like the Eagles because of who they're playing and because the Cowboys are a much different team on the road, and they've got 3 of their last 4 on the road.
3rd and goal.
Wow, we're doing hot takes today. I love this. Let's try the same thing in the AFC and the NFC South.
Have fun with the NFC South, Josh.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to figure that one out. What did you come up with?
Well, look, you've got the Bucks, Falcons, and Saints that are all 6-7. Really, I mean, this is just a coin toss, really. And then I'm going through their schedules, and all of their schedules look like they're the exact same. I mean, they're kind of playing each other. You got some teams that some are going to play the Giants, some are going to. There's a Rams that's. So here's this. I can't pick the Saints because Derek Carr, and I'm so glad he's no longer on the Raiders, so I refuse to pick the Saints. So now that's just process of elimination. And now Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Atlanta has 3 road games. Tampa Bay has 2 road games. This has been a year where it seems like home field advantage has mattered a lot more in the NFL. Sometimes these things kind of go through waves, but I know that when I just quickly scan through the scores, it's very interesting to me how often the home teams have been winning. I look at what those 3 teams have done. All of them are about the same in teams of home and road. I look at point differential. The Saints actually have the highest point differential, but I can't pick them. The Bucks, they've won 2 in a row, so they're kind of hot. So I go with the Bucks because I have to pick somebody.
Well, the AFC South is interesting now because you had Jacksonville come back down to earth the last 2 weeks, losing to Cincinnati and Cleveland to Jake Browning and Joe Flacco. So they're 8-5. And the Houston Texans and Indianapolis Colts are 7-6. And for the Jaguars, Sunday Night Football could decide their fate. If they beat Baltimore, I expect them to go on a run to end the season because it's Baltimore and it's at Tampa, it's Carolina, and it's at Tennessee. So if they can get back on track, beat the Baltimore Ravens, that puts them in a good spot. But if they struggle again, because Baltimore is better than Jacksonville right now, that opens the door because Indianapolis has winnable games against Pittsburgh, at Atlanta, Las Vegas, and then Houston. The Texans are at Tennessee versus Cleveland, Tennessee again, and then Indianapolis. Since what you brought up, Josh, we have a lot of these same teams twice over the last 4 weeks.
I hate that that's a thing.
Yeah, I want division games, but I don't like that it's 2 teams over the last 4 weeks. Because, like you just mentioned it, the Eagles get the Giants twice. And, yeah, you can say all you want about Tommy DeVito. He's not beating the Eagles twice.
No.
So maybe if they played their multiple division opponents down the stretch, I'd like to see that more than, say, those last two in the final week. But to me, I think it's going to end up Jacksonville because I think Houston, just the injuries are mounting offensively. C.J. Stroud has been fantastic. But I think Jacksonville, even if they lose to Baltimore, I could see them winning out and holding on to that division.
4th and goal.
Did I stutter? Beer me.
All right, well, let's wrap this up with the AFC and NFC West.
There's no way we should be having this conversation, but we are. The Denver Broncos are a game back of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Denver Broncos, they gave up 70 points in an NFL game, and all they did was say, hold up. We're going to erase this and be in contention. The Denver Broncos are 7-6. The Kansas City Chiefs are 8-5. You look at the division, Broncos are 2-2. Kansas City is 3-1. For KC, they're at New England. They play Las Vegas. They play Cincinnati. And they play the Chargers. Denver.
They should go 4-0.
Yes. Denver is at Detroit. You play New England, the Chargers, and Las Vegas. And I think the swing,
could go 4-0.
The swing game in this is Detroit.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be a close game. Jared Goff, his 8 turnovers the last 4 weeks. Probably going to turn the football over a couple times against the Denver Broncos. But I feel like at home, Detroit wins that game 20-17. And that's going to keep the Broncos a game back of the Kansas City Chiefs, who will win that division.
I feel like if the Broncos win this week, they're going to the playoffs. They may not win that division, but I think they're going to the playoffs based on their schedule, which is wild. They still have a negative point differential, and they're above 500. All right, so I got the NFC West, and this is the easiest. There's no chance that the Rams or the Seahawks are going to catch the 49ers. Really, the only question in terms of the 49ers is, A, will they run the table? And they've got at the Panthers, at home against the Ravens, at the Commanders, home against the Rams. They're easily going to go 3-1. The only tough game is the Ravens, and that's at home. So I think they will run the table. And really the question is, will they end up with the number 1 seed? I think they will. And will Brock Purdy win MVP? Which I'm not going to bet against him. I don't think he wins the MVP, but he's putting up one heck of an argument to win the MVP. But in my mind, the 49ers, they've won 5 in a row. They're 10-3. With that schedule, they're going to be the number 1 seed.
I think with the 49ers, it's going to be interesting to see Brock Purdy versus Christian McCaffrey in the MVP voting, because more and more people are starting to dive into the numbers. And the stuff that I'm reading is people are like, hold up. Like, Brock Purdy is actually really good. This isn't just a system thing. Yes, he has the 2 best yak dudes in the league. I think Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey are the best when it comes to yards after the catch. And Tyreek Hill is the explosive over the top guy, so he's right there. But when you have 2 of those guys on your roster, it seems like things should be easy. It seems like, oh, Brock Purdy's just a system guy. Numbers are saying some different things.
When you really look at the throws that he makes and the reads that he makes, you realize it's not like it's one thing if he just drops back 3 steps, plant, throw. But the number of times that he's like, nope, that's not open. Nope, that's open. There's this small little window, and I have to get it over this guy and in front of this guy. He can make every throw.
DC, if it comes down to Brock Purdy versus Dak Prescott, who are you taking?
I am still going with Dak. I am. But I understand the argument. I've seen some of those throws, and that the one, and I said this earlier, that the 54-yard touchdown to Deebo this last weekend was such a nice throw, such a nice read. That was the moment that, okay, I'm on board with Purdy. He is a fine quarterback.
Pretty good.
What's interesting to me also is that we barely bring up Brandon Ayuk, and that's their number 1 guy. You know, we're sitting here talking about Deebo and Christian. That's not even their number 1 receiver. It is amazing to me. And let's not forget Kittle as well. I mean, the
best tight end.
So many weapons.
So many weapons, absolutely. So, yeah.
And their defense is phenomenal.
Absolutely. Think about that line. They got Chase Young in trade. Like, are you kidding
me?
We
just want to throw him in the rotation.
Yeah, let's just get number 1 pick. First rounder, no big deal.
You talk so much about the 49ers offense, and, oh, by the way, their defense has allowed the fewest points in the NFL. So either side can win you a game.
And yeah, that's why you play the what did we do? We did San Francisco, Philadelphia, KC, or the field.
Yes.
Earlier this season, and to me, it was a no-brainer. Like, I think it's San Francisco is the best team in the NFL right now, so I'm going to go with them. And you give me Philadelphia and Kansas City in that equation. I think I
might take the 49ers over the field at this point.
I think what's interesting too is the AFC. Do we have someone that we like enough? Do we believe enough in Baltimore? Are we talking enough about the Baltimore Ravens? They were your preseason team, so I'll give you that credit, DC. But I think with the struggles of Kansas City, the fact they've been in the headlines because of the complaining, do we feel like there's a favorite in the AFC right now? The answer should be Baltimore because they're consistent. Lamar Jackson has been throwing darts in the passing game.
Yeah, but when they go to overtime, you start to get those questions creep in. So, yeah, going to overtime against the Rams definitely changed my opinion a little bit. I don't feel like they're the front runner just far and away.
It made me feel better about the Rams as opposed to feeling worse about Baltimore.
Yeah, we talk about good losses. I suppose that qualifies to an extent.
I just like Matthew Stafford, man. I believe in that. Like, he is that good with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp to keep that team competitive. But that's just what I have. But that was a fun Red Zone. How do you feel? 505-246-0610 Sports Animal Hotline. Sports Animal text line. It is the opening drive here on the Sports Animal.
The Isleta, New Mexico Bowl. The Aggies make their first appearance.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
I was born in New Mexico. I grew up on these streets. I got in trouble here, and I fought my way back in boot camp. I love New Mexico, especially the people. Now I'm using my training, tenacity, and energy to fight for you. I'm Adam Oki, lawyer, fighter, and New Mexican. I was a local athlete here in New Mexico, so I'm proud to support your local athletes.
Teenagers love a party, especially during prom and graduation season. Often, alcohol is involved. Some parents think that hosting a party with alcohol in their home will keep the kids safe, but it's wrong and it's illegal. As a parent, to allow your teenagers' underage friends to consume alcohol on your property is a felony. Parents who host lose the most. Don't be a party to teenage drinking.
This is a program of the Drug Free Action Alliance. For more information, go to burnco.gov/do-not-host.
José Mahad here, president of Carpenters Local 1319.
Juan Junior Gonzalez, warden of Local 1319. Some people have a misconception about what a carpenter does.
The carpentry trade entails more than just woodworking or building houses. We are responsible for 85% of a construction job site. Everything from the superintendent on down. We have a great apprenticeship program. Information can be found on our website.
Hey, look! It's Dwight Goodman! This place is hot. Let's see if anyone needs my help. How about I drive the madman home, huh?
I got this, Dwight. I'm the designated driver. Boom. Sweet.
Does anyone need Dwight's help getting home tonight?
No thanks, Romeo. I've got a taxi all lined up.
Drive safe, Dwight.
Boom! Boom!
Albuquerque's leader in sports is Pro View. From pros to prep, all your favorite action. All your favorite talk shows. Find it on Pro View Networks.
Seriously? You expect me to drive while you aren't wearing seatbelts?
What's the worst that can happen?
Seriously? Buckle up.
Okay.
Thank you.
For your surprisingly great race, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Marty Size in Albuquerque today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
For your business or your home, Valley Fence stands alone. We're number one in New Mexico for a reason. It's the best fence you can own. Proudly serving New Mexico for over 50 years. At Valley Fence, the difference is clear. No fence too big, too small, or difficult. We handle them all at Valley Fence Company.
So is it a problem, or do we just overanalyze things? This is what we do. We have time. We have the takes. We have the technology. And there's been kind of like an undertone to the NFL season. You listening to certain shows or seeing the primetime games where people feel there's been a problem with the NFL officiating. I don't think it's been that bad. It's not, strike season bad where you have that play on Monday Night Football between Seattle and Green Bay that one ref, remember, he was ruling an interception. The other was like, touchdown. I don't think we're there. But the frustration mounts, and it happened again on Monday Night Football. JJ Buck DC, the voice of that stuff, Josh Shushan with you here on the opening drive on the Sports Animal. So just before halftime during Monday night's Packers-Giants game, a question emerged regarding whether the kickoff did or didn't strike the leg of Giants tight end Lawrence Cager before going out of bounds. Now, it seemed clear that the ball hit his leg before going out of bounds, but it was not clear and obvious to the officials. They threw a penalty flag indicating a kickoff had gone out of bounds without being touched by the receiving team. Now, Troy Aikman was not happy about the amount of time that it took to figure things out. Troy Aikman on the Monday Night Football broadcast said, quote, "The problem with all this is that just make a call, I mean, there's 13 seconds and a half. They're not going to, just make a decision. And this is what stops all these games and the officials. I know they've been talked about every week, but this is ridiculous. What we're watching right now. I mean, we see something. It takes 5 seconds. It takes them 5 minutes." End quote. It kind of brings up is, what do you want when it comes to officiating, and how much should technology be involved? Because when we slow things down, we look at it, we have the rules analysts come on, give their explanation. Do you want more technology? Do you want less technology? And what really made me interested in this question, too, is you deal with it on a daily basis. In minor league baseball, they've been experimenting with a lot of different things, especially when it comes to the electronic strike zone or challenge calls on balls and strikes. So you directly see professional athletes dealing with technology in the implementation of technology. Do you feel in sports we're trending in the right direction? Are we doing too much? Are we doing too little? What should the factors be with what the referees have to do versus what we can do with technology?
I think the one thing about sports fans is that they have a massive recency bias. I think they always think this is the worst that it's ever been. I think that pro sports across all of them have never been officiated better than they are officiated right now. I think it is not getting any worse. I think that officials are extremely good. The technology just gets better. What I would like to see is a timer for how long they can make the decision. I don't know what that time is. I don't know if it's a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but Troy Aikman is right about we can see it in 5 seconds. They're taking 5 minutes. I think that there should be a limit that if you cannot change the call within this time, it automatically stands. And I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. So I think that we're trending in the right direction. I think that it is so rare that a call gets wrong that we flip out when it is wrong because the technology is there. Now, there's a lot of instances where we don't know what a catch is, or we don't know what a move is when they have the ball. And so there's some things like that. But in terms of like an obvious over-the-top call getting wrong, it just never happens in sports anymore because of the technology.
Yeah, there's going to be holding calls that go one way or the other, and be like, well, what about this? The pass interference, because that can be subjective at times, and we saw that even reviewing that, it didn't go over well. That was one and done when it came to pass interference reviews. And I'm with you. I think we are trending in the right direction in sport. Like, I think football, they can continue to have the conversation about full-time officials officiating the game, the speed of the game, the physicality of it. I think it's a good spot. I think the challenges that you have, the 2 challenges, and move on is good. I like the fact the same thing in baseball and in a basketball. Like, you have your moments so where you can use them early in a game. And then I'm okay, even if end-of-game situations take a little bit longer, I'm okay with getting things right in those moments. And then that brings up the question of why are you okay here versus a different point in time? Because isn't a play in the first quarter just as important as a play at the end of the game?
No, because you have more time to make up for it. You have more time to strategize as a result of it.
So I'm okay. Like, I know it's the old joke when the significant other asks, so how much time is left in the game? They're like, there's a minute and a half left. And they're like, all right, I'll see you in 45 minutes.
Right, yeah.
That could happen. But, like, I'm okay with it. I think that the technology that we're using right now is good. Did they have a timer on, like, replay review before in the past? I feel like they did in the NFL at one point in time. But I think you're right. Like, it gets to a point of if you're looking at something and it's tick, 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 it's not obvious.
Yeah.
So you got to move on at some point.
Yeah. I also think that having rules analysts as part of the broadcast makes a big difference to me, because now sometimes they're not very good, right? The ones that are really good and the ones that have time to be able to look at it when they bring them in at the right time, I think is also good in helping explain this, because I think that too long you just had a former player who was the commentator for the game. And here's the other thing about those TV games is that in the NFL, they have like these huge TV screens for the analysts to look at. But a lot of times it's a much smaller monitor when you're doing a TV game. So the idea that people have these 82-inch TVs at home and they can see it, and then the color commentator for the game is looking at like this 12-inch screen trying to see something. He's
the
like,
referee,
I'm not quite sure.
He like runs over to the sideline and have that dude set up the Microsoft tablet.
And and you're like, can't they have a bigger screen for them to look at? And so that's why I like that the decisions get made in like these huge studios. At least I want these decisions to be made in these huge studios with huge TV screens. And I just want a limit on it. But overall, it's pretty darn good. We have it pretty darn good these days.
And I believe that we forget that a lot. And I think your point on recency bias is true. You're going to overreact to things. You're going to be frustrated in the moment. I like in-game scenarios and having more of a time limit on it. I know you want to get it right, but if you're getting to, all right, he's kind of been standing there for like 3 minutes, then there's not a clear and obvious view that's going to pop up. I think the challenge system is working well in the leagues that it's working in. I like that, yes, the final 2 minutes of the game matters more than what happens in the first quarter or second quarter, because you brought it up. You have more time to overcome a missed call early than you do at the end of the game. And also the future for baseball. I know there's a lot of the rules, like the pitch clock, the shift that affect the game, but the strike zone, the automated strike zone. So you do a bit of both in AAA, where you have the automated strike zone, and then
before
you have
we get to baseball, I just want to jump in. The one thing that I think about the NFL that I think we are going to change is lasers on the sideline and a chip within the football, so we know exactly where the ball went out of bounds. I think we'll see that within, for sure, the next 5 years, maybe the next 2 or 3 years, to know exactly for out-of-bounds plays.
Yes, I do agree with that, because a lot of times you have these scrums, and you're just running and going, here.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of people point to tennis, too. And, we have this, Hawkeye system in tennis that can show you where a tennis ball hits the ground to, a millimeter. And you just... This is spot the football works.
I don't want chips in the uniforms of players. I think that gets into their own personal privacy. But a chip within the baseball and lasers on sidelines, I think that's fine. And we're getting there soon.
And that kind of does trickle over to the pinpoint of the strike zone. And what we've seen in minor league baseball, we've had the automated strike zone and also the challenge system, where a batter or a pitcher or a catcher could be like, well, I don't think that's the correct call. Let's challenge it. What do you like? What do the players, the umpires seem to handle better, gravitate towards so far?
Yeah, so this is the way that it works in the Pacific Coast League with the Isotopes. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, it's straight the computer that's calling balls and strikes. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the home plate umpire calls balls and strikes, and the teams are allowed 3 challenges. If you challenge and you get it right, then you keep it. If you get it wrong, then you lose it. And it must be the pitcher, the catcher, or the batter. You cannot have the dugout yelling to help you. You cannot look to the dugout. You have to make the decision immediately. And personally, I like the challenge system. I like that it keeps the human element in there. I like how often when there was one time when the crowd was yelling, challenge, challenge, and the player challenged and the player got it wrong. I think it shows how good the umpires actually are. I think that when players make a big, huge, they start flailing their arms around and they get upset, and then you go to the computer and you realize, no, actually, the umpire was right. You were wrong, bro. And I think that a lot of times when players, especially when hitters challenge, it's because they got fooled by a curveball or something like that, and they're like, oh, there's no way. And then you're like, no, actually, not only was that a strike, but the entire baseball was in the strike zone. It wasn't just a sliver that's in the strike zone. What they still have to figure out is exactly what is the strike zone. We have the computers that will tell you whether something is a ball or a strike, but it's still the human beings who are deciding and who are programming whether or not it is a strike zone. Should it be a straight rectangle, or should it be curved a little bit at the top and the bottom corners, because that's kind of the way the human eye works, right? Right now it's set up so that it's right when the ball crosses the exact middle of the plate. Should it be the front of the plate? Should it be the back of the plate? So there's different little tweaks like that. But personally, I like the challenge system for what I just explained.
Do you think that the challenge system would be what Major League Baseball would ultimately go with?
Yes.
Or do you think they have a... Okay.
I think that if we ever do get there, and I don't think it's going to be, it's definitely not going to be next year. I don't know if it's going to be another year or two from now, but I think it's first of all, it's really, really fast, so you don't have to worry about that slowing down the game. I still think that you need a certain point of humans that are involved with it. Again, it creates drama too. When the umpire gives the signal, you tap your top of your head. It's okay, challenge, and then everybody turns around and looks at the video board. It's kind of exciting. It's this dopamine rush, and it takes less than 10 seconds. Most of the time, it takes like 5 seconds. There's this dopamine rush that's involved with it. I remember when this first started 2 years ago, there was a game when there was an umpire who kept getting calls wrong at the top of the zone, and he realized the error of his ways. Once he saw what was happening, he changed his strike zone to be correct, and so that made him better. I've talked with players, especially hitters, who have said they understand the strike zone better because of the technology. It has helped them understand what to swing at, what not to swing at, not just because it's a ball or a strike, but that's not a pitch that I can do anything with when the count is 0-0 or when the count is 1-0. I'm not going to swing at that. When there's 2 strikes, all bets are off. I still think that baseball needs to get to a point where there's just more swinging early in the count, and there's not enough data yet to tell us whether or not this is inspiring guys to swing more often. There's still too many walks. There's still too many strikeouts. That still just kind of makes the game like, come on, let's get to the point. So we're getting there, but it's going to take more time.
Also, could bring up is hitting a baseball one of the hardest things to do in sports nowadays?
Yes, for sure.
Just when you look ridiculous. At the type of pitches they're seeing, the speed, the break, and the fact that you could be a hitter in a starting lineup, and you could legit base 4 different guys in one game.
Yes. And also, like the Twitter account, Pitching Ninja, when they overlap and they show you how this guy, this is his delivery, the ball comes out of his hand at the exact same spot. Halfway to home plate, the ball is in the exact same tunnel, and now it goes 3 different directions. How are you supposed to hit that? You have less than a half of a second to determine whether the pitch is going to go in on you, away from you, or straight down from you. It's really, really hard.
It is. So I know we were talking about...
And hard for umpires.
Yeah, and to see that in real time, to see the movement where it goes and crosses play, that's going to be fascinating because I've been kind of the strike zone's a strike zone. If a computer can tell you what the strike zone is, go for it. But then, all right, you got me convinced a little bit. The drama, the challenge system to where if there is an egregious error, you can correct it. Still having a little bit of the human element.
I like how it also shows which guys are selfish. There's certain times that you should just not be challenging a call, even if you think you're right. And I think it shows how challenging it is and how guys are selfish when they're making bad decisions on when to challenge.
Don't make a bad decision. Remember that. It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
The Jim Rome Show.
Something tells me Wisco fam thinks...
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Teenagers love a party, especially during prom and graduation season. Often, alcohol is involved. Some parents think that hosting a party with alcohol in their home will keep the kids safe, but it's wrong and it's illegal. As a parent, to allow your teenagers' underage friends to consume alcohol on your property is a felony. Parents who host lose the most. Don't be a party to teenage drinking.
This is a program of the Drug Free Action Alliance. For more information, go to burnco.gov/do-not-host.
What's going on, Lobo Nation? Ja'Cory Krosky-Mir here.
And I'm Devin Dampier. The Lobo football team's going through some changes, but we're here to stay.
We'll put in the work on the field, in the weight room, but we'll need your help off the field.
505 Sports Venture is leading the charge in the NIL space.
And you can be part of it.
Try this shit better than all my intentions. I can show that you got my attention. CEO, baby, that get to the business. Touchdown and tell you a visit.
For 50 years, Clark's Pet Emporium has been your pet's favorite stop. Santa Paws has left thousands of holiday gifts for your furry, scaly, and winged family members. Pick up a gift for a pet lover or even a new pet. Clark's has shelves full of pet beds, sweaters, toys and treats, habitats, and tanks galore. Locally owned and operated with 2 convenient locations for all your pet needs. 11200 Manal Northeast or 4914 Lomas Northeast. Clark's is celebrating 50 years. Thanks to you, the Christmas Superstore. ClarksPets.com.
International Protective Services is a proud supporter of ProView Sports and New Mexico Youth Athletics. IPS provides residential and commercial security services in the Albuquerque metro area. For more info, please call 505-897-2420 or visit internationalprotectiveservice.com.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, red and green chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier sweet rolls. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs are proud supporters of ProView Sports.
We here at Clark's Pet Emporium welcome you to bring in your pets. We know that having your pet with you makes the experience of shopping for them even better. And we welcome you to bring your kids also. Clark's Pet Emporium, your pet's second best friend.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
5.9 FM and AM 610. The Sports Animal.
I'm pretty sure it was on your Instagram that it got me doing the Immaculate Grid.
So awesome.
And now I just sit there at night. I'll just be laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and I'll be looking. I'm like, who the heck played for the New Jersey Nets or Brooklyn Nets and the Minnesota Timberwolves? Sam Cassell was a winner, by the way.
You know who else was a winner, and it just went over my head, is Kevin Garnett.
Oh, that's right. But he was used on a different part of that grid.
Oh, so you can't reuse?
No.
Yeah, you can only use them once. And the other thing is, you don't want to use the superstars because everybody else is doing that, because it's not just about filling out the grid. It's about getting the most random guys so you can have the lowest score possible.
Oh, I forgot there's a scoring element.
So you're testing your knowledge. You're trying to get a low score.
So lows, it's like golf. Low score wins.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Immaculate Grid. It's a lot of fun. Just want to pass some time, start racking the memory banks. I'm more of I just want to fill out the grid, and then if I get a low score, that's cool. But
I get greedy.
Yeah, the baseball knowledge that Shushan has, it's unbelievable. Like, he's showing me, oh look, I guess this guy 0.8%. Like, I don't know who that man is.
Mike Devereaux, he played for the Dukes.
Dukes. Yeah, I'm not up in my Dukes history as much as I should be. I'm not. There's a lot of things like we want to start talking about where some of these quarterbacks play college football. I got you covered.
There you go.
Like that's my neck of the
The other thing that happens with my Immaculate Grids is that I just go down these rabbit holes afterwards because it gives you the summary where you can look up who you could have picked. And then I just start going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And I'm, oh, that guy played for that team. Oh, wow, look at. So I end up just spending even more time and more time.
I do love my random NBA role players.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun when you start going down those roads. And like the one I got, I was like Ty Lawson, played for the Kings and the Rockets. You remember that? Bet you didn't. Houston Rockets, Ty Lawson.
I actually do remember the Houston side because that came after his downfall, I guess you say, with the Nuggets. Yeah.
That's a lot of fun, the Immaculate Grid stuff, and great way to pass some time and test your knowledge.
It's great when you're on a road trip with your buddies. It's just like the ultimate conversation in the car with your buddies. And you can turn it into a great drinking game if you want as well.
You have some really good ideas with this.
Yeah. So if you want to do like a really fun drinking game, then just pick 2 teams, whatever. Maybe it's your favorite 2 teams, the teams you just know best. You just go, all right, we have to name as many people who played for both of these teams. And then as soon as you get it wrong, you have to finish your drink.
Eduardo Nahara. Linus Kleza. Timothy Mozgov. Who did they play for?
Man, Mozgov. Timofey Mozgov was like one of my favorite Nuggets for about a 3-year stretch. His game was really, he didn't do anything spectacular, but he was just fun to watch. He was a really nice guy, very easy to interact with.
Was it Blake Griffin? Is that what Mozgov ended up being kind of infamous for, is getting dunked on?
I think that is the one thing people will probably remember most.
Mozgov is getting posterized.
Or if you're a sports bar, you're welcome in advance for this idea. Just set up the grid on the wall where you have the logos of all teams, where you just do a 30 by 30 MLB grid or 32 by 32 NFL grid, and make it magic marker so people can just erase it and say, if you can fill out this grid, then you win whatever prize. You get half off or whatever. You're welcome, all sports bars. Set up an immaculate grid, a 30 by 30, 32 by 32 of all the teams, and let people just have fun with it.
That is truly an amazing idea. That would keep me in a bar for a few hours for sure.
There we go. That's why this is an idea guy. That's why he's a big guy. That's Josh Ushan. Superstar.
Anything that involves sports and alcohol and free alcohol. I got an idea for you.
I got an idea for you. All right, here on the opening drive, JJ Buck DC with you. So Adrian holding it down on ProView Network. So Draymond Green is getting a lot of play this morning. You got this on the X. Ken, he said he's so tired of Gigi's antics. So dramatic, but still plays off that he's not a dirty player. Terry got it in the text line. Says Draymond Green with another dirty play last night against the Suns. It's why I respect hockey so much, because payback would be a bleep. And that's the thing. At this point in time, you should not be surprised with Draymond Green. So Draymond Green got ejected in the third quarter last night. He got entangled with Yusuf Nurkic. Warriors, Suns. Draymond said he was just trying to sell the call with his arms. No, he hit Nurkic in the side of the head with his elbow and forearm, came around. You're in control of your body. We've been there, done that with Draymond Green. There should be no surprise. There should be no, come on, man, you're hurting your team. No, they know what they signed up for. They know who Draymond Green is, and he's going to knock people around. He's going to face a suspension. But I think the bigger problem were the Warriors. It's not Draymond Green missing games. It's the fact that they're 10-13 overall right now. Not in the top 10 in the Western Conference. And they got some issues. And you brought up a great point, Josh. You're like, usually, they figure things out, close it out, move on. They got a lot of stuff to figure out right now in Golden State.
It's really interesting, too, because going into the season, it was like, okay, how's Chris Paul going to be joining these guys? And, because there was such a heated rivalry between them. And then they got together in the summer, and it was kumbaya, and everything looked great. And Chris Paul's like, yeah, I'll come off the bench. And especially early in the season when they started off 5-1, this was exactly what they needed. They have their starting 5, and now Chris Paul can basically carry the second unit, and it looked like everything was going to be great. And now they're just a mess. Now they don't know who the starting 5 is or who it should be. Now they don't know who's going to close out games. They're still trying to figure out, can these young guys contribute? Can they contribute enough right away? I also think that what made the Warriors when this dynasty began, all the other teams do that now. It was push tempo. It was shoot threes. It was get out and go. And now so many other teams have the same playbook as them. I feel like the Warriors are just this team that they're down 10. They're up 20. They're down 10 in the same game. There's just such extremes in the NBA because every team is pushing tempo and shooting so many threes that it makes it very entertaining, number one. It means that even if you're down by a lot or you're up by a lot, the game's not over yet. But for an older team like the Warriors, their playbook is different now. It has to be different because the league has changed so much since their dynasty began.
Yeah, in the Western Conference, it would absolutely shock you right now. Yes, the Warriors have only played 23 games. Could they be a top 10 team? That's all you have to be. is a top 10 team to make the playoffs. And I think they're going to be a top 10 team because I think the Houston Rockets are going to come back down to earth. That's a very, very young team. But Houston's 11-9. You look at 7 through 10 right now in the Western Conference, that would be the play-in. The Clippers, Suns, Rockets, and Pelicans. I actually really like the Clippers right now. But I know that James Harden could mess things up at the end. But they are playing some really good basketball. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. They've won 5 in a row. The Phoenix Suns, they've been able to manage not being 100% pretty well. They're 13-10 overall. Their big three, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, haven't played together yet. And then you have a team in like the Pelicans with Zion Williamson back on the floor. They have Brandon Ingram and C.J. McCollum. So all of a sudden, these young teams are getting better and winning games. The Minnesota Timberwolves are 17-5 in first place. We watched last year Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Everyone was like, oh, this guy could be an MVP. Yeah, he has his Oklahoma City Thunder at 15-7. And now these young teams, they're not just young anymore. They're winning games. And you have a team that you just expect to be in the playoffs in Golden State, like kind of going, uh-oh. Like it's going to be a lot harder than you expect in the Western Conference.
The thing that makes the NBA interesting to me when it comes to the postseason is because once you get into a series, in baseball, you play a best of 7, but it's different starting pitchers, and so that's totally out the window. The NFL, obviously, it's just one game. But in the NBA, for these younger teams, you can kind of go on a run when you're just playing one team, then you're on to the next. But then once you get into the series, that's where I do think like the veteran teams, whether it's whatever team LeBron is on, whatever team the Warriors on, it's harder to beat a team 4 out of 7 when it's the same guys, and you can really sink into what matchups can we exploit. And that's when it becomes the real challenge for the Timberwolves, for the Thunder. The teams are at the top now. I think that's what it took a while for the Nuggets to be able to figure out. Okay, what are the in series adjustments that we make, or do we just get to a certain point and we just have more talent, right? And so that's where I think the NBA does become interesting for a team that is on the rise. But then, can you stay that way when you have to beat a team 4 out of 7?
I saw it last year. A perfect example of that was that Sacramento Golden State series.
Yes,
it was a fantastic series. Golden State won the series, but can they do that now that a team like Sacramento has that experience in the postseason?
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch because all of a sudden you're looking at the Western Conference, you're like, oh, this is really interesting. When it's Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Dallas, the top 3 teams in the Western Conference. It is the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
This is Boomer Esiason.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
We aren't all born with the same opportunities. But it's the people who care that change everything.
Get ready, Scout, get ready!
My coach, my teacher, my older sisters, my grandma, my brother, my tutor, my dad, my mom.
As Mexicans, it's up to all of us to do our part.
So that no child goes without love.
And no family has to do it all on their own.
They're all our children. Every single person is called to make a difference in the life of a child.
It's up to all of us to do our part.
To pull together.
Pull together.
Pull together.
To make New Mexico the best place to be a kid.
International Protective Services is a proud supporter of ProView Sports and New Mexico Youth Athletics. IPS provides residential and commercial security services in the Albuquerque metro area. For more info, please call 505-897-2420 or visit internationalprotectiveservice.com.
I was born in New Mexico. I grew up on these streets. I got in trouble here, and I fought my way back in boot camp. I love New Mexico, especially the people. Now I'm using my training, tenacity, and energy to fight for you. I'm Adam Oki, lawyer, fighter, and New Mexican. I was a local athlete here in New Mexico, so I'm proud to support your local athletes.
Rosendo Nahad here, president of Carpenters Local 1319. Juan Junior Gonzalez, warden of Local 1319. Some people have a misconception about what a carpenter does.
The carpentry trade entails more than just woodworking or building houses. We are responsible for 85% of a construction job site. Everything from the superintendent on down. We have a great apprenticeship program. The information can be found on our website.
Young driver, this one. Hard to get her out. She'd been drinking. This one. Both of them gone. They'd been drinking, and he drove clear off the road. This was my family. Drunk driver hit us. And my wife and our daughter, they didn't make it.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Everguard Roofing and Solar. For nearly 20 years, Everguard Roofing and Solar has been working with New Mexicans to enhance their homes and businesses. For all your roofing and solar needs in New Mexico, call 505-821-9543.
Hey, look! It's Dwight Goodman!
This place is hot. Let's see if anyone needs my help. How would I drive the madman home, huh?
I got this, Dwight. I'm the designated driver. Boom.
Sweet. Does anyone need Dwight's help getting home tonight?
No thanks, Romeo. I've got a taxi all lined up.
Drive safe, Dwight.
Boom. Boom.
Albuquerque's leader in sports is Pro View. From pros to prep. All your favorite action. All your favorite talk shows. Find it on Pro View Networks.
Stigatron coming in here talking about the Immaculate Grid. He's a baseball nut. Like, that's right up Scott Stigler's alley. He's old school baseball guy, but it's a lot of fun. Pass some time, especially the holiday season. Maybe you get stuck at a holiday party. You're like, I don't really want to be here. Well, pull up that Immaculate Grid. Or you can start a conversation.
Start a conversation.
Be that guy first. Try to be the conversation starter guy. Maybe not the I don't want to be here guy. But sometimes it happens.
Or a lot of times it
happens. I know. Happy holidays, everyone. Welcome back into the opening drive. JJ Buck DC, the voice of the Isopes, Josh Shushan here on The Sports Animal. Are you a decorator? Like, for the holiday season?
My house has been decorated since like the second week of November.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're all the way in.
We have the tree up and everything, some decorations around the house. How are you outside? Is it crazy outside? Or
oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all lit up.
Like, you're like my house is the Griswold house. You're like, look at us. This is what we do.
Not quite at that level, but it's very tastefully done.
Tastefully, I like that. It's very interesting.
Red and white lights, very nice tree wrap. Looks good.
Look at that. I like that. So I was trying to do that this week, and I do like the outline of the garage, do the window, keep it very simple. And guess who didn't test the lights before they hung them up? This guy.
And it got really windy last night.
And so set up the lights, plugged in, nothing. And that happened the other day. And then so now when I'm driving home at night, all I have is a 4-year-old in the back seat that says, look, Christmas lights at work. Look, Christmas lights at work.
Your son is roasting.
Like, I just get roasted. And I'm like, well, I'm going to have to become that guy next year, and it's going to be bonkers. Like, we're going all out. Like, let's do it for the holiday season. I'll have to get some tips from you.
But it would be my wife that you would want to refer to on that one.
She's the one that's handling everything.
She's into it, and I'm not going to hold her back.
I love it. The holiday season. Yeah. Enjoy it.
It's funny you talk about the grid. I'm sitting back here looking at the 2008 Kansas City Royals lineup because I found that rabbit hole based on this grid. That is something. Wow, I'm going to download that game, and it's going to change my life. I can already tell.
Just pull up like whatever, like baseball reference, pro football, the reference pages. Mm-hmm. You can pull it up. right there.
And you can go
for the
back
game.
to do all of them now. Originally,
Yeah.
it was just you're only allowed just the one for that day, and now you can go back and do.
Oh,
all
that's
of them.
what I love. Like if you get stuck, you just pull up, go back, trying to find a different one. This is, what it reminds me of is it feels like it's like a new school way of going through your old baseball cards.
Agree.
Of like you're just like, oh my gosh, I remember this guy. I didn't think about that guy. You're just scrolling through it, and it's just a way to.
Or how
remember.
often have you basically just been the let's name some dudes game, right? You're like you meet someone, you're like, oh, you're a Rockies fan too. You're at this holiday party. Oh yeah, who's your favorite guy? And then you just start talking about like the random dudes who you remember who played
Brad
for your
Hop.
team. Yeah,
Garrett Atkins.
yeah. And then that's what Immaculate Grid is. It's let's name some random dudes and have a game to it.
Did Clint Barmas ever get his due because Troy Tulowitzki was there?
Right.
Like the conversations that
the worst hunting accident of someone's life that ruined his career.
Or was it speaking of accidents, what was that pitcher, Giants, Diamondbacks dirt bike accident? And that
No, Jeff Kent. Jeff Kent had the dirt bike accident that wasn't really a dirt bike accident. Well, no, he said that he was washing his car. As it turned out, he was doing wheelies down Scottsdale Road, and that's why he ended up in the hospital. There was that.
So I always
You might
have
be
these-
thinking of somebody else, though.
the lefty won a World Series. I thought he got in an accident kind of changed things for him. He was just pitching last year, the Arizona Diamondbacks. It was the Giants. We're playing Immaculate Grid live on the air.
Oh, really?
Why can't I think of this pitcher's name?
When you
Close
said
out
Giants
the World
Diamond-
Series with the Giants.
Well, there was a lefty?
Wasn't he a lefty? Or was he right?
Well, okay, Sergio Romo, Brian Wilson.
But he was a starter.
For the Giants? Sure you're not thinking of Montgomery for the Cubs?
Now we're going to go over this. I'm going to be thinking
Madison
about this.
Bumgarner?
Mad Bum. I don't know why I was thinking.
Oh, yeah, because he went the final five.
Yeah.
Mad Bum.
There you go, having some fun. Josh Ushan.
Thanks for letting me hang out with you.
Thank
This
you
was
for
fun.
coming in, man. It was a
This was
whole
fun.
lot of fun. And just wait, baseball season right around the corner. He's getting those vocal cords ready to join you right here on the Sports Animal. DC, fantastic work. Adrian on ProView Networks, appreciate you. We got the Jim Rome Show coming up next. Colin Cowherd at 1, 2 minutes at 4 o'clock. Lobo Talk is live tonight. Rich Pitino, Mike Bradbury at 5 o'clock on the Sports Animal. Everybody, Metal Peace and Love. We'll talk tomorrow.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Young driver, this one. Hard to get her out. She'd been drinking. This one. Both of them gone. They'd been drinking, and he drove clear off the road. This was my family. Drunk driver hit us. And my wife and our daughter, they didn't make it.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, red and green chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Sweet Rolls. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs are proud supporters of ProView Sports.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Everguard Roofing and Solar. For nearly 20 years, Everguard Roofing and Solar has been working with New Mexicans to enhance their homes and businesses. For all your roofing and solar needs in New Mexico, call 505-821-9543.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Hi, my name is Daniel Chavez, and this is my business partner, David Chavez. We are the owners of Indeed Safety. Indeed Safety is a local safety consulting company helping our clients with their safety needs for their projects.
One of the things we pride ourselves as a construction
Safety Company is helping our men and women in construction get home safe every day to their families. Indy Safety is a proud supporter of ProView Network.